We'll see if anybody's up this time of night.
You never know, but we already have people starting to come into chat. So welcome, fuckers.
What? Merry Christmas, fuckers.
Merry Christmas, fuckers.
That's not very nice.
Excuse me, fuck nuts. Is that what we say, Jimmy?
That's what we say.
It's all about the fuck nuts. All right, last thing is getting the Christmas music like you requested. YouTube.
Just get the Yule log, you know?
What's the royalty free?
Is the Yule log Yeah.
Yeah, let's finish this up so I can go home and deliver the doll.
All right, I think that'll work.
You think so? It sounds like a whole lot of roaring fire to me.
Well, that's the idea. He wants to be in front of a campfire for this. We're lying to our audience and saying we're in front of a campfire.
Are you gonna bake that in? Because it would make more sense to add it afterwards.
I mean, Jimmy normally likes the music baked in just so he's in the mood.
Oh. So what are we doing first? We're doing an interview?
It's up to you.
Why don't you do that first?
Well, I need music for that.
You need music for that?
Yeah, we're gonna have to bake it in.
Well, I mean, no. This is purely for like you or whatever, right?
Right.
Like, and being conscious of a Mr. Scrap.
Are
you doing this?
This
for
is the
yourself?
podcast where there's going to be a lot less editing than normal because
sure.
It's just us.
Okay. All right.
In fact, all it's going to be is just tone adjustments at this point.
Okay. All right.
And
That's stressful.
tighten up all my
That's stressful.
my.
Well, okay, we will not bake it in that case.
I appreciate tightening it up.
All right, we will not bake it in then.
I like it tight. I'm just saying.
I mean, you could bake it in for that.
I'm not worried about that.
Oh no, I need music. I'm not doing it.
Oh, like there'll be music.
No, I need
You
music.
just won't hear it while we.
Oh, I want to hear the music. That's me.
Fucking hey! I was hoping that was going
What
to
a
be last.
What a fucking doobie brother over here.
I was hoping that was going to be last.
Oh. God.
All right, fine.
Don't
Here we
listen-
go.
Why were you hoping that would be last?
Don't listen to the fucking Dixie chick.
You just move it around. You just record it separately.
I mean, or we could just record it last.
But okay.
All right, record.
I just don't know how long this is gonna go, and I don't know if he's gonna want to leave early or something.
If we have to record that later and do it separately, I'm okay with that.
All right.
All right. Mic check. Jimmy, breakfast.
Breakfast of champions.
All right, breakfast again, please.
Breakfast of champions. I had some underwear.
Can you also talk about your constipation?
No, I cannot talk about constipation
Excellent.
because it's over.
It's all over?
Yeah.
It's all over your pants.
It's all over the back of the toilet.
We're going to have to fix this.
Secret podcast.
Have you ever seen that Saturday Night Live where the guy's interviewing somebody, keeps hitting them in the head
Right
with
here.
it? You see that one?
I did not.
We're gonna watch that later.
All right.
Are we done?
It depends. What did you do before you came here?
Before I came here,
Yes.
I jerked off about 4 this afternoon, and then I watched some porn.
So, but did you jerk off a second time?
No, I'm getting old, but
Was-
it was just kind of like foreplay for later on.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah.
All right, Jimmy.
What?
A little more for me, please.
Oh. So I was telling my wife what a huge dickwad you are for making me fucking do this at 9 o'clock at night.
Okay.
Then she told me it was my fault because I didn't get over here till 9 o'clock.
You're speaking low on top of not pointing your face at the mic.
These are
Okay.
the ideal situations.
No,
You know what I'm talking about?
I think we got this.
No, here's the problem.
Here's what we're going to do.
Is I never sit next to him, so I'm looking at him because he's looking at me.
gotta do one of
is
these.
this gonna bother you guys too much? Like,
I've never had a 3-way. Yeah, I
He's-
have. Okay.
well,
No. Yeah, I have.
Okay, yeah, his levels are good. He's just got to point at the mic. That's better.
Yeah,
That's better.
How about
right there.
that? So I can see you both, and I don't.
That's
have
a
to
lot
move.
better.
Okay, so you
I just, yeah.
And I
you
already
know,
tested you, so you're good.
I don't want to be on the end and like.
is he coronavirus free? Have you tested him that way?
Well, this house is all kind of questionable. Oh man.
Last part, turn on the camera.
This is not your safe zone, by the way. So
No, it's not. Well, if there's one thing that I really hate, it's looking at myself. So
I get to ignore the computer today because I don't give a fuck about the podcast live chat. So
that's great. I'm happy for you.
I'm happy for me. All right, in 3, 2, 1, and would you like to take the reins right away, or shall I introduce what's going on?
Probably that.
Okay. Welcome to the Christmas special podcast. We did one last year, and I wrote a story. It was just 6 minutes to remind you that you shouldn't be listening to podcasts on Christmas. You should be enjoying your family. This year, COVID ruined that for everyone. So now we're here to entertain you for those that are stuck at home under quarantine that can't be at home with your family. So consider us, sitting by your fireplace at home, about to do a fun, candid interview during family Christmas time. It just so happens to be about the Aquarium Guys podcast. And we'll finish up with a little story from Jimmy this year, because I did one last year, Jimmy.
yeah, I did, and I listened to it today, and it was very interesting. And I had to see if I had to come back with anything to smack you with, but you were actually pretty well behaved last year.
It was pretty good.
Yeah.
Not going to lie. I'm Rob Solson.
I'm Jim Colby.
And today we have the wonderful Aaron Beck joining us. He's going to be the interviewer, and we're the interviewees.
Yeah, I think that's how they.
Is that?
I think that. Yeah.
Is that how it works?
Yeah.
I'm under a tremendous amount of pressure. I literally have 2 spotlights staring at me on top of being interviewed, so I'm very nervous, Jimmy.
Honestly, you get used to it, but the blinding lights never go away.
They really never do. That's why I wear shades.
Apparently, you two have never been in the police station. This is easy.
Well, I do my best to not.
Yeah, no, I've had the lights in my face before and had a lot of questions thrown at me. So
Is that why you only use liquid soap? Is that what?
in the shower at the jail. You do,
Okay.
yeah.
Excellent. Well, I think we should just dive into this. Other than, hopefully you'll be hearing a crackling fireplace in the background, sipping a hot cup of holiday gas station soda. Feel the Christmas spirit with us. And again, Merry Christmas to one and all. But Aaron, a little bit of background on you before you started interviewing us. So you happen to be a amazingly handsome a single man that has skills in video production on at least all levels to some degree. You've made a lot of fun indie films over the past, and that is your career choices, film editing, producing, all that. But particularly how it involves you with fish is this information about a fish doc that you've been thinking about. So, number one, give us a little about yourself and why you love me, mostly.
Jim, does he always go in dry? Oof. Jeez, you set me up too much.
I feel like it's more pressure that Jimmy put me in. He's like, I need to be in bed by 10 o'clock, and I'm looking at my watch, and we have 30 minutes.
I never let him go in dry. I usually lube it up pretty good.
With McRib sauce.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a professional filmmaker. Video editing is my job, and but really, it's all about if I am interested in things and I ask a lot of questions, I'm better at it. Which one day I'll get good at it, but we'll see.
So, how on the earth did you have this idea for this fish doc?
Jeez, Rob, you're just going in there. I was gonna be like, I've got this fun story about how we met, and you're just killing it for everybody.
We're gonna get there eventually.
Oh,
but
okay.
I figure we get the business out of the way before we have our pleasure.
Yeah, let's not
what I
talk
mean?
about the gay bathhouse right away.
Yeah, well,
Again, liquid soap only.
yeah, no, man, what a way to try to transition.
Put out,
here.
would you? Come on.
Put out. Be nice. Be nice, Jimmy.
I like Beck.
Best behavior.
Oh, it's Christmas.
It's Chris.
We don't want to be on the naughty list.
Excuse me. We should do it like a normal family Christmas and start, nitpicking each other immediately.
Well, I got this friend Rob's, and he's kind of into fish, and he was telling me all about these fish, and I'm like, that's kind of interesting. And then he's telling me that, I got this fish podcast going on. I'm like, that's also interesting, but more interesting that your wife told me about it first, and saying that it was, and I quote, kind of blowing up.
Wow, I didn't know my wife talked about me.
It's kind of rare for Minnesotans. They're terribly Norwegian, regardless of your background. So, you know,
Don't you know?
it's just one of those things where I think fish is an interesting topic. It's really deep, and
Oh,
there's a lot to
oh.
jump into and really get your feet wet.
I feel like we gotta start doing a drinking game.
Well, that's mostly going to take a toll on Jim here.
He's got 2 livers. Don't let him kid you.
I'm a professional.
Oh yeah, we got another one on standby.
So I'm to blame for this idea. That is what you're saying.
Are you
Let's hopefully not the blame. I mean,
I think you'd be putting a little bit of importance on yourself there. But,
yeah, I don't want that importance.
I mean, you definitely introduced me to all these people who, they're really passionate about what they do, and it makes me formulate some opinions about this. And I'm sure we'll talk about this more down the line tonight when I, feel a little bit more into it. I want to get to know Jim.
I went in dry. I feel like you've now lubed the situation. So where would you like to begin, sir?
Well, I figured I'd talk about the funny story of how I met Robs because I don't do the hobby. I don't have a single fish. It's just kind of interesting to me. But I've known Robs for how long have we known each other? Something like 4 or 5 years now.
It's been a hot minute.
Yeah, and we're these dorks who used to play Magic the Gathering. Well, we still kind of do, but just not as much.
I mean,
No, you're still dorks.
we're just older now.
Well, thank you for that vote of confidence.
Yeah.
So okay. There's this guy, right? Imagine me. I'm in groups online about where people talk about the game, and they meet up because it was all happening in the central Minnesota. There's not a lot of population, not a lot of people who play the game, but somehow there's this beautiful little tight-knit community that has come together and keeps getting new people in. And suddenly, in this area with like low population, there's like a 30-person group meeting every week, which is insane. I've played the game for a long time, and like to have a town of population less than 10,000 have 30 people meet every week and play for like 5 hours is crazy.
That was minimum.
Minimum, right?
Minimum.
And these guys were so into it. They were fanatics. And there's this one guy who keeps popping up, and he keeps trying to start shit. And I'm thinking to myself here, who is this guy, right? Because I haven't met him. He's like one town over. I during college, when I go back to the hometown, I would be about 30 minutes away from where Rob's lived. There's a tiny bit of rivalry between our towns. It's really petty and it's hilarious, and one is definitely better. But, we won't name names.
We won't.
And, Rob's is out here. And he's like, oh, let's get these guys together. Let's do all this community involvement and stuff, and let's like fight between the towns. And I'm like, who is this guy? And he's really everywhere. And then I hear my townspeople, they're talking about this guy Robs, and then he's like, oh yeah, no, Robs, he's a little out there, he's a little crazy, right? And Jim, you know what I'm talking about?
A little out there?
Yeah, well, I like to put things mildly.
His mailing address is Jupiter.
I thought Uranus was gonna be the
I'm
gonna be the one.
I'll save that for later.
Oh.
I'll save my Uranus for you. Come on, Beck.
I need more eggnog.
Oh yeah. See, I in the world of video, I know that I can just edit all of this out, and with this, I only pray to God that that's gonna happen.
Nope, it's not. We're gonna enjoy every
It doesn't
minute of
matter.
this.
Nobody listens to this crap anyway.
This is Christmas. This is bonus Christmas content. This is what they came for.
Oh yeah. So I'm gonna meet Robs. I message him. We're gonna hang out and play some Magic because I'm gonna be in his town because he was living with one of my good friends at the time.
So kind of a blind date.
A little bit. And I tell you what, it is exactly as much of a horror story as you might expect from a blind date, because the first thing we do, the very first thing, is I get to his house. I'm like, hey, Robs, what's up? The first time I'm meeting you. And he's like, oh, yeah, great. You're Aaron, right? Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, I'm Aaron. And he's like, do you want to go to my fish warehouse? Mind you, I know nothing about this man.
Wait, was my limo outside at the time?
You didn't own the limo yet.
Oh,
You didn't
okay.
own the limo yet. I'm still pissed about that. I'm still mad. He said I could use it in a film, and he's like, "Oh, I have a limo." And then I'm like, "Hey, Robs, 4 months later, do you have the limo?" You
Just
know,
sold it.
I had to sell it. I'm like, I told everyone.
Just sold it.
He had to sell the limo because it was in his driveway, but it also was out in the
It was
out in the street.
It was a 1980s Lincoln stretch limousine, and I got it off of Craigslist. I got it for a steal. I fixed it up, and a guy walked in my yard and gave me an offer I couldn't refuse.
He said, "Come on in the back of the limo, and I'll show you something fun." That kind of offer,
Like-
or was it cash?
It was cash.
So he paid you to go to the
I
back of the limo.
did tell him that there is Coke stains in it, though.
Was that from when you went to the mall the other month?
No, I think that's where they use it as like a car double in Scarface movie.
Yeah. So imagine me. I'm like, I'm gonna make this throwback to '80s buddy cops. Yeah, a white limo, fantastic. The bad guys will drive around in that, and nope, just pull the rug right from under me, which is it's fantastic, you know. But Fish Warehouse, and I'm going in there. I'm like, okay, sure, and we go to this secondary location, and I'm thinking to myself, what am I getting myself into? And you know, folks, it's perm. It's not that bad, but I go back in here. And it's just tanks and Jim. I think this was the space you guys would have been using at the time, I would imagine. But we're in there, and then somebody comes in. Somebody just comes in when we're there, and then Rob's is like, "Hey," you know, as he does, and
You make me sound like I got like Tard Burgers or something.
oh, sorry. I could do a little bit of half friend. So
That was so dead on. Oh, I want that as my ringtone.
Is this the Comedy Central roast of Rob's? I feel like this is where it's getting at.
you kind of signed on to it.
All
I
right,
mean, like
Jim's turns later.
We're stuck here in the middle of a cabin, and there's a winter storm, and I'm gonna run out of hot chocolate at some point, and there will be hell to pay.
We'll switch to eggnog and watch your colon blow.
So, lady comes in. She's like, I brought these, and she's just got a bag of fish of I don't know.
Oh, I
what
thought it
kind.
was drugs.
You know, I'm not. I'm gonna describe this to you, and I kid you not. The vernacular, dead on, right there. Is like, oh yeah, you got them. I got yours right here, and they just do a little exchange, and we're done in 5 minutes. And I'm just kind of sitting there to myself like, those are some nice koi. I hope nothing bad happens to them.
And at this point, you thought to yourself, "I wish I had a safe word." Blueberry pancakes.
I was too innocent at the time. I didn't know I needed one with Rob's.
Everybody needs a safe word with Rob's.
So, and we would meet up all the time because, we hit it right off the bat for whatever reason.
Loved it first Coke.
And so you
exchange.
started going steady. That's cute.
Well, it's you gotta give a little, So, and Rob's really wants to give it, and I, sometimes, but over the years, he would tell me about like this fish related stuff that he would do, and it would just be great. I played so much Animal Crossing as a child, and I tell you what, I got addicted to fishing in that game. So like I know like some species, and one of the really cool ones that I always thought was like awesome was an arowana. And Rob's, he tells me one day, he's like, "Aaron, you'll never believe what I got." And I'm like, "What did you get, Rob's?" And he sends me a picture of the most beautiful fish I have ever seen with my own two eyes. Yeah, there's better pictures online, but in person, it's just fantastic. And
I'm not a camera.
Was this the first arowana you've ever seen?
it was the first one I saw in person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember my first set of boobs, too. I go, they're the most beautiful boobs I've ever seen.
Oh man, when I went to Forest Lake Pets for the first time, I was losing it. So I see this, and I'm a film guy. I love doing photography. I take nice photos of it, and I'm thinking like, this is really fun. I'll never use these for anything, but it's really fun. And a couple weeks later, because he wasn't too far from where I was at college even, and a couple weeks later, he's like, "Yeah, check out this hybrid here in the bottom," and I'm like, "That's also kind of cool, not nearly as cool as the arowana." And he's like, "Oh God, no." And what could go wrong? But anyway, over the years, he would get these fun things, and he would tell me about it, and I would think nothing of it because we mostly just played Magic, until he starts doing podcasts last year. And, I listened to his podcast and I'm like, wow, this is, well, it's a podcast. It's, could be more researched. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I don't really know if this is for him because he doesn't really sound like an expert on this. But then I listened to his fish podcast that he started up slightly afterwards, and I'm like, oh, this is great.
Yep.
You have no idea how long I've waited to tell you how I actually felt about the Magic one.
It wasn't good. It was
reading the news. It was not good.
It was just reading the news.
Which is really great that you had the fish one because, it worked out.
It really did. You found your niche and clearly succeeded.
Did it work out? Anyway.
It's now in better hands. This Week in MTG is owned by Matt Olson, and he's riding high. So.
And Jim's probably getting high, so,
I mean, for McMurray sauce mainly.
Just smelling your feet makes me kind of a little.
Well, now that I know that I'm some sort of enigma that people need to be concerned about, and apparently did drug deals out of a fish room.
You just love when I use that phrase, don't you? Robs.
I've never even heard the word enigma.
Robs is an enigma
Until you told me it. So.
And then I met him and he's like, oh, he's mostly memes.
He's mostly hippopotamus.
I'm going to have to work on my first impressions, but thank you.
So I was listening to this podcast, and I didn't start right out the way. I think it was somewhere between 4 and 6 in, but I was listening to it. I was listening to how you were talking, how the guest was talking, and I think you can just appreciate a couple of guys who are talking about something. They really know what they're talking about, and they know how to talk about it. And it's just enjoyable. Because, I have no idea what's going on. I don't know fish, but I'm tangentially friends with Rob. So, I can kind of appreciate that he's doing his thing and he's having a good time with it. And also, the guests he's having seem to be enjoying it, surprisingly.
It is fun. Just to see your face every time, Jimmy. That's what I look forward to.
Oh, just seeing my face?
Yes.
I'm still waiting for my first check to clear, so that's why I'm still here.
Oh, yeah, that big podcast money. You know what I'm talking about, Jim?
I'm just hoping for enough money for McRib. That's all I really, really want.
That's our goal for next Christmas.
Last year it was his 2 front teeth, and now a McRib.
Yeah. That's 100% correct.
Veneers, baby.
Veneers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so now I hope that set me enough. Do you need anything else, buddy?
I feel like
I'm here for you.
I feel like I really need to work on my first impressions, and I feel closer to you.
Well, you gotta practice to get better at it, bud. So that's all it takes. Just believe in yourself.
So for what the fans demand, right? Then now they have real scope on me being accurate as a human being, and now I made everybody go on Craigslist and look for a limousine for cheap. But what else you got for us?
Well, we're gonna do this thing where I'm gonna stop talking about myself because I hate that. I'm pretty Midwestern here, so let's get into something I'm a lot more comfortable with. Let's how you say begin the interview.
Wonderful.
Begin, right? So the first question I always ask, I'm a video guy. I do this. I'm not great at it, but I do my best. And Rob's, what did you have for breakfast today?
I didn't eat breakfast, but I did have a ginger ale that was diet because of diabetes. So for those that don't know, we ask this every time on the podcast. We do these podcasts live. We always ask what we had for breakfast to do audio checks. And Adam always talks about some nasty ass kombucha. Jim talks about having gummy bears and vodka. And the guests are completely horrified because generally this is some of the first touches they have with us on the podcast. We talk to them, we try to warn them, and they get on and talk about gummy bears and vodka and rotten kombucha, and they're just like, why am I on this podcast?
Well, the amount of answers, the most common thing that I get because whenever I do this is, honestly, people say nothing, and I'm always like, that's not the best for your health, start the day right. So,
right.
Rob's, I think we need to have a talk later about
get some post toasties.
Yeah, get breakfast of champions, wheat picks, whatever floats your goat.
Wonderful.
Jim.
Some whole brand.
So Jim, how's those gummy bears and vodka?
You know, I don't have gummy bears and vodka every morning. Sometimes I have a bag of Doritos, and then I have a snort of cocaine off a dead hooker's ass.
In the limo, right?
No, out in the woods. And I found her out there dead. I didn't put her there. I just found her.
This is literally like right there is literally how we do audio tests every time. So there's your clip. Clip it, share it. I just want to be done.
You know what's really great is I wanted to help show some people a different side of you guys, because a big thing with me is like the fish are interesting, but I'm more interested in the people.
This is a behind the scenes moment, and good play, sir.
Yeah, and honestly, most of this interview is going to be sort of like behind the scenes stuff.
Wonderful.
And let's start out. You've got this podcast, and you've got it going. So going into it, Rob's going into making this podcast. What were your goals? Did you have any sort of like mission statement?
So again, we did the podcast. The first one I did alone was that magic podcast. It was just me.
Yeah, no,
Barons.
we're not talking about it. We're past this. What are you doing?
So the moment that
Right.
I did that, I'm like, no,
Right.
this isn't a fit. I like podcasting, but I got to do something I'm more passionate about. And I've been picking on Jimmy forever. Like it took 4 months, Jimmy, to get you to see, even like come over once to look at a microphone. You didn't even know what a podcast was.
I didn't even have a safe word, so I wasn't coming over.
Yeah, no safe word. So it took quite a while to get your butt over here. And we did just our test run. We had no idea that we would ever like get into it. So we had no expectations starting like the first 3 episodes. After that, it was like some like glorified aha moment. And then immediately like this works. We could use this as a tool to have all these like insider secrets no one wants to talk about on YouTube or whatever else, and share things that people are either afraid to or don't want to because it's somehow covering up their breeding secrets, or we just see a lot of information disappear. And that was like the light, like, oh my gosh, we could do this and do it and have fun and do it in our own way. So have something that wasn't dry and told things that we weren't going to apologize for.
Yeah, and I would say that that was really noticeable right off the bat. Other than the fact that
I think the word crass you used is kind of crass, guys.
Well, that, and we keep getting feedback. I think it was episode 1. I have a clip in there that I keep getting sent by people saying, I just want to nut Jimmy.
I don't know what that means. I do know what it means.
you scared me there, son.
I just want to nut. That was how it all began.
Yeah.
Boys and girls.
Yeah, this jerk badgers me. I think badgering is a good freaking word. And he badgered me. He said, "Come on, let's do a podcast." And if you know Rob's like we know Rob's, sometimes he's got a short attention span and something shiny.
Really?
Yeah, something shiny's over here. And then so I thought, we're gonna do 3 podcasts, and I'll never hear from him again. And then he camped out in front of my doorstep and said, "We got to do this some more."
Did he hold a boombox up?
Yes, he did. You've seen the movie.
Ooh. Yeah. So Jim, what were your thoughts as you were sort of tepidly recording this first episode?
I seriously thought, let's get this over. It's going to be an hour of my life that I'm never going to get back. And we did it. It was somewhat enjoyable. And then the second one was a little more enjoyable. And then Rob's pulled a guest out of his back pocket, and he got one of my favorite guys in the world, Mr. Steve Rubicki from Angels Plus on. And once we had Steve on, for some reason that gave us a little bit of legitimacy. People that, these guys aren't completely nuts. They actually have got a guest on. And if I can say that one thing that Rob does, and he does well, he gets all these guests from all over the world on. And some of the most interesting people we've had, I've never even heard of until they've been on this podcast, and people are just blown away. So kudos to Rob for that.
In my defense, right, I bribe them with things that we don't deliver on. So we have a long check to give a lot of people.
So we need to order about 200 T-shirts is what you're saying.
Something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, you made a lot of promises early on, and I hope nobody re-listens to that.
No, we've actually been reminded on some of them. We've done most of them, but I think the first promise we did, we still haven't delivered on, which was finally making a compatibility poster, Jimmy. I had to re-listen to that.
Oh, really?
We need to get that done. It's on my list for next year.
Seeger's Farm sells them. Go ahead and buy one.
Have you ever used Google Images?
Yes, it's there. We just got to like make our own with our own brand.
Oh, everything in time.
We have to white out whoever copyrighted it. You know, that sort of thing.
So, it's. I like that you brought up the Steve Rubicki episode, and for anybody out there who hasn't listened to it, episode 6 of this podcast is phenomenal. I think it was the first time that you guys really hit your format and really were able to showcase everything that makes the podcast something that I was connecting with, despite being a total outsider when it comes to fish. So it was where I could easily see that your mission was get this good information and put it out there. And why Steve was the perfect guest for that was because he was already doing that. I think when it comes to skills, a lot of people tend to get defensive, and you would have obviously seen this in the aquarium hobby because you tell people about it all the time.
Oh, yeah, don't you know?
Oh, yeah, bud. So, Steve is out here. He's giving people good information because he knows that what makes him different is his experience as a breeder. And that's the thing that's most important, and you can't recreate that. You can't cheat your way to it. You can get some helpful advice, but you need to learn these lessons, right? And it was also sharing not only your knowledge of fish, but also, Rob's, your own personal background in web development IT, where you were just being a total dork with this guy, going on the Wayback Machine to look at his original website.
It was pretty great.
Like Jim.
Yeah, I'm sure Steve enjoyed that.
Like
He did. He like asked for links after the podcast and archived it.
honestly, I just feed off others people's energy, and I was like, oh, these guys are going off, and I am here for it. Like he could have just said, I want a nut, and we're there. And the last point that I would say between you guys and Steve, and it was just that you guys were incredibly, genuine and authentic about how you were communicating, right? I think there's a lot of times in any content creation that people, and sometimes very quickly, lose that genuine excitement because they really wanted to do it. Maybe they only get a couple in, and then they just start phoning it in like Jim's worst nightmare. But, you guys have managed to keep that generosity and authenticity going, and it was, again, episode 6, for anybody who hasn't heard it, is absolutely phenomenal for saying everything that you need to know about this podcast.
Aw.
Steve Rubicki I've known for over 30 years. And when I first started purchasing items from Steve Rubicki and getting information about breeding angelfish, he was just a phone call away, very knowledgeable. He was one of the very, very first people ever on the internet selling fish, if not the first. We've had some arguments about that from different people. But what I love about Steve is, it's all about quality. It's all about getting the best possible product to the customer, not apologizing for prices. He is getting extremely fantastic prices for his stuff, and good for him. I mean, he's giving you a wonderful, wonderful product. But what I really appreciate about Steve is he is so incredibly busy, so much more busy than he was 30 years ago. And if you're a new customer, you have to make an appointment to talk to him on the phone.
And he charges, I think the rate was posted. It was like a ridiculous, 3-digit rate. He charges per hour, and there's a minimum just for having conversations with him.
Yeah. So if you're not a customer and you're just looking for information stuff, he'll give you his time, but it's going to cost you. And I know for a fact that he kind of did that just to try to avoid some of these conversations because
he just doesn't have time.
He just doesn't have time. But Steve's always been so good to me for all the years and stuff. And when Rob called me that day and said, I got Steve Rubicki coming on the podcast, it just blew me away because I know that Steve's time is so valuable.
One man doing over 400 tanks by himself, and he has to deal with customer service of people calling him on the phone. It was his only way of trying to mediate it when being fair. So he's been trying to find ways to share his information, and he was very willing.
Very willing.
Surprised. That was when Jimmy's like, Robs, I can't believe you actually you did this.
Yeah, that was the first nice thing I ever said to you,
Pff,
and probably the last. but
I mean, that and I mean, my grilling tasted okay. You said
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, you thought it was fine? Ooh.
His grilling.
he says a little dry, so I take that as a compliment.
He made me a grilled cheese sandwich. What'd you get?
You really like being dry. You know, after
Keep it moist.
so after I listened to this episode, I actually went to Angels. Is it just Angels Plus?
It is.
Yeah. So I went to his website, just out of curiosity because it was like I want to find out about this because they had an hour about this. It was fantastic, and it looks like he's bringing it up right now.
Absolutely, I have to know what
And-
you're talking about.
And you know, that I think that day as well, I checked his blog and saw that a Mr. Steve Rubicki talked about how he was on the podcast, and he really summed up what I was feeling at the time, right? And do we want to read this off for the folks at home, or
Is
I
this-
mean,
is
we
this the
can.
one where he was standing with a gun in his mouth?
I feel like
I hope not.
something.
Go ahead and read it.
I had the pleasure of doing an interview with a good group of guys who promoted the hobby. They are new at podcasting, but I see some real podcast talent in this group. I think it's worth subscribing to their podcast and following their work. In the topic was selling fish online. I gave my experiences and insights, what worked for me, how to get started, and what to expect. Although I recommended that most keep it as a hobby, for those few possessed individuals, you might find this a bit helpful, or at least a little interesting. Thanks, Robbie, Jim, and Adam. Listen to the interview here.
yeah, and that was exactly what was running through my head as after I had listened to it, and I thought it was just absolutely fantastic. You guys should, it might help you on a bad day if you just compile all these things that people have said about you after they've been on your show.
I need tissues soon.
Sometimes
Right.
you need the touchy fifis, you know?
Just the tip.
And
Blueberry pancakes. I don't feel safe in this room.
oh,
That's my safe word.
Thought it was Oklahoma. We practiced this.
No.
Robs, pronounce a word that goes Piaba. Pronounce that.
It's either Piaba or Piaba. I think it's Piaba.
Or is it Paiba?
Right. That's the meme. Thank you for that.
Right.
Yes. I still get people messaging me, especially people like new. Like they go through the podcast, they find OFR, they find one obscure video from them, and then they have to find me on Facebook and message me, Paiba. That's all. I've literally got like a handful of people doing that to me.
Who could have done this to you?
It was you. So thank you. for that.
There's no such thing. So, also another episode that like really stuck with me that I've listened to was the Project Piaba. Is it Piaba?
It's got to be.
It's got to be.
It's Piaba.
Yeah, Project Piaba episode with Scott Dowd. I remember I got a message at 1 a.m. from Robs because Robs knew that I listened to his podcast. That's dangerous info to give him.
That's actually pretty early for him. I've gotten a lot of 4 a.m. text messages from Rob.
I now have a day job, if that matters.
Thank you, Jesus.
We'll find out if it does. So, he texts me and he's like, "This guy's really dry. I don't know how I feel about this." And then I'm like, "Whatever, Robs.
I'm sorry, Scott. I love you, though.
I'm going to bed because I'm not dealing with this right now. It's 1 a.m. So I listened to it the next day because, I thought I might as well courtesy, And I'm listening to this and I'm like, what are you talking about? This is one of your best. What, like, I couldn't understand why he thought this way.
So, giving a little preface, right? Because I always rate that as the driest podcast and the one that I had to do the most work with. That was quite a long podcast before edits. I took probably 40 minutes out of that podcast because we had such a terrible connection. He had a computer from 2006. He had a terrible microphone, and there was a delay on top of everything. And then how he delivered was like, I don't know, a Lutheran preacher on a very long Sunday afternoon. So there was a lot of pauses.
And you were standing up and sitting down a lot.
It was a lot of nerves on Scott's part. I don't know if that's the case because before we talked to him, during the podcast, he wanted to make sure he was getting the content as accurate as possible. So the amount of gaps between words 40 to 45 minutes of cuts. After it was done, I couldn't listen to it for about 3 weeks just because I sat on that for days editing that podcast.
One of my favorites.
Welcome to my world.
Days.
So, Jim, Rob's is telling me this, and I'm like, oh, you're learning to be an editor, bud.
I felt like I was growing a small aneurysm
Oh, yeah.
as I was editing this. After it came out, after about that 3 weeks, and people started messaging me left and right saying how fantastic that podcast
Right.
was. It had nothing to do with the editing other than the fact that he had such great content once I made him sound good. Like, his content was on point, his mission spotlight was wonderful, and it turned into what I believed firmly was the worst podcast to literally top 3.
So, a lot of what I do is trying to get people comfortable in a situation, because I'm sure, as the two of you are aware, you get the best out of people when, you know, they feel like they can be themselves. And sometimes they do need that little bit of extra help.
100%.
And
Kind of like Bill Cosby. No? Too soon?
Not too soon. It's
Too
just,
soon? Okay.
I can't have Jell-O now at Christmas.
is he doing fine? How many are you in?
I'm in 3.
Oh, Jim, it's a long night and it's cold out here.
Yeah. We can spoon later.
Yes, please. So, you know,
Are you okay, Robs?
Nope.
one of the
Oklahoma.
do you something you consider is
I like the pudding pops.
Something you consider.
You consider pudding pops?
Sorry, we're on a Bill Cosby tangent, don't you know?
Don't make him do impressions. Just answer ask the question.
Oh, my wife, Camille.
Jim, tell me about the pudding.
I like the pudding pops. This is so good.
He likes the pudding pops, Robs.
There went 50 listeners. Just like that. Poof.
So, you know,
So we're down to 3. Crap.
I always like to tell people, you know, it's my job to make you look good, because it is. It really is. And in your case, it's, you know, to make people sound good. But you know, there's just something, again, about somebody who is so passionate about what they're doing and what they're talking about that you can't help but love it. And I don't think we've talked about this since, and I know how worried you were about it, but I think you'll kind of find that, like, whenever you're really worried that something's gonna, like, bomb and you don't know how it's gonna go over because you had to put a lot of work into it, those are always the best.
Clearly, that one was pushing a week editing, and just for it was an hour and 40 minutes of content. It was quite the deal. So, and it had nothing to do with, all I was doing is clearing dead air, prepositions. I did nothing else for edits, and it was just the most beautiful flowed content from change from A to B. So, tickled pink, and I can't wait to contact Scott and have him on again.
Yeah. And so episode 27, Project Piaba, again, that's another seminal episode in your repertoire. And now, talking about one that is a lot more recent, the Mr. Bentley Pascoe. Is that Pascoe?
It's like, yeah, it's Pasco. So he said he described it as Tabasco. That's how I remember it now.
Yes.
That way I don't get made fun of.
Because you suck at remembering.
Can we just have a Tom Jones?
We could do a 30-minute episode of you just mispronouncing everybody's name, not once but 17 times in a row.
Mark Smith, anybody?
Yeah, if you could find a Mark Smith, that would be great. But
If there's any fan out there who wants to make a supercut, we really appreciate it.
I mean, even who do we have on Monday night? We had those nice people from the Seahorse people.
Yes, and it was just the best.
Yeah, it was Kapil and Alyssa. And how many times did you say Kapil wrong?
Okay, to be fair, it's spelled P-I-L. It's like Kapil. It's a lot for me, all right?
Yeah, but you asked him 17 times.
Yeah, and I got it right in the podcast.
No, you didn't.
I did.
You did not.
I did. I will have to re-listen to my episode.
Lord. So yeah, it's just all about Rob's butchering names and stuff. But
When people are listening to this, they're wondering what that podcast episode is. We did this episode out of order. So know that we have like 2 or 3 episodes in the hopper at any given moment.
yeah, so we got a upcoming. We have a wonderful podcast about seahorses with Alyssa and Kapil. So make sure you tune in.
And we did not leave out any horse jokes, so know that assless chaps were referred to it. Thanks, Jimmy.
You're welcome.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, you should have been here.
See,
was
I'm
fun.
used to like video interviews where I don't feel the need to like constantly like be on, and I like leave space so that I can cut it properly. But now I feel all kinds of pressure. Ooh, it's making me hot and bothered, Robs. I see those eyes Jim's giving me.
Oklahoma.
Moist.
So Jim,
Yes, sir.
how long have you been in the hobby?
I've been in the hobby since I was 13 years old, so about 4 years.
And what poor unfortunate circumstance got you into this money sucker?
Way back in the day when I was growing up, my grandmother had a tank full of zebra danios, and they would have babies, and she sent them home with me in a glass jar, and I kept them in a bowl. As I was growing up in a small town in North Dakota, we were probably 100 miles from any pet store, and my mother and I had a 15-gallon aquarium full of guppies, and we started raising guppies, and at one time we probably had 75 bowls of guppies, and I'm talking bowls, not aquariums. And we raised guppies, and we would go to the neighboring town for where the pet store was. We would trade the guppies then for new tanks or equipment or food or things like that.
Yeah, so you started at 13, but you were around it earlier in your life, I would imagine.
Yeah, from my grandmother, when long as I can remember, she always had a tank, and that's kind of what got us started. But I think I was about 13 years old when my mom finally got me my own tank.
Little did he know that he was conceived right in front of a 55-gallon. So, I mean...
I was conceived in the back of a car. Pretty sure.
Yeah, stop filling his head with "if only." So, what Jim? Did you have like a moment like?
Oh, good. I thought he was going to ask me what kind of car it was. I was like, I don't know.
If you want to tell everybody,
And I don't know what kind of car it was.
It was a gremlin.
They didn't have gremlins
did
back
they?
then.
Do you think that they cut it up later for sponge filters?
God.
Oh!
Wow.
Oh!
When did this turn so quick? All of a sudden, the interview guy's a dickweed, I tell you. So the standing...
Is that a plant that you're growing right now, Robs?
So, yeah, tell him about the joke, Jimmy.
So the standing joke is that I have tanks and tanks and tanks, and I have everything with sponge filters. And for some reason, Rob came up with the idea that I cut all the sponge filters off the back of a Buick or something out of an old car seat. And that's been an ongoing thing for the whole podcast, for the most part.
Actually, some of our first feedback, like actual like interaction with fans, was them coming and telling us their predictions of what they could get out of a Cadillac backseat.
Oh, the amount of sponge filters they could get.
Yes.
That's good. So learn about fish and also learn about math. How great is that?
We're the full package.
For those interested, there are multiple episodes on budgetary options in the aquarium.
we're cheap. I'm just saying.
So getting back on track here, Jimmy, was there something that you might describe as like an aha moment where like you kind of realized like there's something here with aquariums?
You talking about the first time I lost $18,000?
Oh, it's 18 now?
It's always been
always-
18,000.
He said 8 at the first episode.
Did I say 8?
He was being humble.
He's
Oh no, it was 18,000. Yeah, I had 3 credit cards maxed out.
It took a year and a half to get the truth out of him.
you know,
No, I want to say it was about 18 grand. I really would honestly say it was about 18 grand.
you know, I meant maybe something before that, like maybe you're like looking at your grandma's tank and you see some stuff going on, but by all means, if losing $18,000 is your idea of this is great,
that'll
then-
get your attention. I'll tell you that much.
It's much less of like, oh, this is for me. You know, like the aha moment, like fish are my life. No, it was like the aha moment of I will be proven right.
No, it's kind of like when you're at Las Vegas and you go, I've lost 10 grand. I got to win this back. I can't quit now.
Ba-na-na-na. Anyway,
Put it all on black. Damn it.
Damn it. Yeah, with my grandmother's aquarium, and she had these baby zebra danios, and she would send them home with me, and we would put them in a bowl and watch them grow and stuff. I found that just so fascinating. What I really found fascinating is when we started producing guppies, and back then guppies were very healthy, and you'd have 30, 40, 50 babies from every female once a month. And like I said, we had bowl upon bowl upon bowl. my mother had these beautiful glass shelves in front of 4 picture windows. It was all a house built in 1898 that we lived in, 5 bedrooms, and it was 5 glass shelves, 4 windows wide, and so it was full of glass bowls and full of plants. So when we needed food for the fish or a new heater or stuff, we would load up 100, 200, 300 guppies, and we would take them to the local pet store, and he'd be more than happy to take them off our hands. And I can't remember. I think even back then we were getting like a quarter a piece for them, and we would go home with a new heater at no cost and some food and maybe some new breeding stock. And to me, that was kind of like, well, at least my hobby is now being paid for. And so for that, I was very excited.
You get a little too excited, it sounds like, though.
Well, it's probably when I turned into my 20s, and I thought, I used to raise guppies like a banshee with my mom. How hard can it be? My local Ben Franklin, which is a 5 and dime store,
Do they exist anymore?
everywhere.
No. Did they?
There's literally one left that I know of, and it's in Fergus Falls,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he supplies it with fish.
Because I know that like the locations are basically still the same stores, but I think in name Ben Franklin's are mostly gone.
Yeah.
Right.
When I first started wholesaling, I had Bemidji, Baudette, War Road, Roseau, Thief River Falls, Fargo, Moorhead, Fergus Falls, St. Cloud area.
I think Wadena was in there.
Wadena,
somewhere. Yeah.
yep, had Wadena. And so there's many stores around. And so I started, my quest was to start raising guppies. So, why start with 1 tank when you can buy 40? So I bought 40 10-gallon tanks and started raising guppies.
To any avid listeners here, I think we all know what's going to come up. So, Robs, whenever he says "the slow," I want you to go dun dun dun.
You got it.
All right. Oh, so these 40 tanks.
40 tanks. I drive up to Grand Forks, North Dakota, about a 2.5 hour drive. Went to a fish wholesale operation
And what year is this?
probably about 30 years ago. So probably about 90 or so. And I went up there, bought the most beautiful blue guppies, and I found all these big pregnant females.
Oh, you gotta.
And went home, had everything set up, and the next day, a third of the females were dead. Had this big white saddle across their back. The males were looking kind of droopy, and I sat there and just watched them all die. So what do? You clean out the tanks, drive back up, get some more. And that's how I started my losing money quest.
Also, I didn't know there were credit cards in the 90s.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was a credit card. They were made out of stone.
And you apparently had to use carbon paper for them. Just like sweep. Yeah, it's you even know the noise.
How could you forget? So what was going on with those guppies?
The Singapore Slough.
Dun dun dun.
I set it up. We got to pay it off. Come on.
Damn it.
The Singapore Slough.
Dun dun dun.
There we go. Yeah, so these guppies basically would just dissolve in front of your eyes. They'd get either a gram-negative, gram-positive bacterial infection, and the guppies would just fall apart. And nobody could quite figure out what was going on. And to this day, they really still haven't figured out what's going on with those things.
It was a whole lot of just bleaching tanks and finally purifying stock lines.
I actually bought 4 gallons of formaldehyde at about $60 a gallon. It's not cheap.
Wait.
Plus, it's highly carcinogenic, by the way. Don't buy any.
Is that why I see like animal heads in your garage?
Those aren't animal heads, Rob.
Oh,
Think.
Oklahoma.
But, they said try formaldehyde because that'll be enough to kill whatever's in the tank. Fine line between treating a tank and keeping fish alive.
If it kills anything in the tank, aren't the guppies in the tank?
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like a rough time with the Singapore Slough.
Yeah. Dun, dun, dun.
Robs, get on this. Come on.
I wanted to give Jimmy one.
Yeah, thanks.
Apparently, I'm not good enough, but, it's fine.
Sorry.
So, how did you sort of bounce back from, as we have found out, 18K in the hole?
It was 18K, yeah. I got involved raising angelfish. I was able to do it quite easily to my chagrin. I didn't really expect it to be that easy. And I was able to dump off 2 to 700 angelfish a month to 2 different stores in the area. They would run them. I'd go in there and I'd probably get 40 or 50 cents for them. They would sell them on sale for 99 cents, and they'd have 2 or 3 55-gallon tanks sitting there, and they put the different colors in there, and they'd run them on sale. And so slowly but surely, I made my money back, and then got involved into getting more and more tanks and more fish. And as I'm delivering angelfish to the stores, they're saying, "Well, what else do you got?" And I wanted to say guppies, but I didn't. And so what I ended up doing was I found a company called Z Fish out of El Segundo, California, and started transshipping in.
So early on in your wholesaling career, what were some of the setbacks that you faced right away? Because I don't know how many people really know what a wholesaler does.
We haven't talked to a bunch of middlemen. We've talked to the top people. We've talked to fish stores, online sales reps. But there are plenty of people like Jimmy that require the transshippers, and it's certainly on our list. I think that you being the first person talking to that is the perfect person.
Yeah, you know, I would bring in stuff, and you'd have to buy in huge quantities, but you get them very cheap. And one of my first lessons was trying to work phones and get the airlines to cooperate with you. The hatred for Schmelta Airlines.
Dun dun dun. I've got to use it.
It rhymes with Schmelta.
It rhymes with Schmelta. I'm not saying. Actually, it rhymes with Southwest, but it was somebody else at the time. And so I would bring stuff in, but a lot of times the stuff will sit there in Minneapolis and not come into Fargo. I'd have to work the phones, learn whose palms to grease. Honestly, the fish would come into Fargo, and they let them sit outside on a cart. And so you'd be surprised what 10 pizzas at Christmas time to the crew there would do. Then all of a sudden my stuff's underneath the heater. Everybody else's stuff is over in the corner, freezing to death. And so you kind of learn to treat people with respect who take care of you. And it's always been...
Respect or, bribery. However you want to see it.
So we'll have to have a podcast individually just covering from that point to 2018 when I had to pretend to be your bodyguard.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
I made her cry, man.
I have lost my mind at the airport so many times because they just don't care. But back in the day, when I first started bringing stuff in, the people at Schmelta Airlines, or the thing that rhymes with Southwest, which is Northwest Airlines, those people were paid well, and they're making $25, $30 an hour, and they wanted their jobs, and they did a great job. But now, 2020, these people are all getting paid $12 to $14 an hour, and they can't keep help, and they don't give a rat's ass about nothing. So it's just very, very, you have, if you're going to do this wholesale thing, you have to realize that you're going to be going to the airport at 11 o'clock at night, even though it was scheduled to come in at 2 in the afternoon. You're going to have to realize that you're going to flush $1,200 worth of fish down the crapper because you pissed off somebody down in Minneapolis, and they put them outside, froze them solid, and sent them the next day. It's happened.
So how as well do you sort of account for those losses, or did you need to learn to account for those?
Yeah, you have to learn to account for them. I've, like everybody else, I always have that money spent before I even earn it. I know a lot of people are going to get a stimulus check here in the next few weeks, and I'm sure everybody's already got it spent. And in my mind with these fish, I already had the money I was going to make off those fish spent because I was going to buy these other fish and make even more money. And there's a lot of setbacks. A lot of times you lose money. A lot of times you break even. It's very frustrating, but then, when you finally get a heck of a deal and you make some major bank, it's all worthwhile.
Then he started to attend Gamblers Anonymous in 2016, and so far this podcast has been therapeutic for him.
No, drinking has been therapeutic for me. No, you know what? I'm not a big gambler. I mean, I got married twice. That was my biggest gamble. So, not a fan of going to the casinos unless I'm going to a concert.
I'm just saying 50% rate's better than average.
Yeah, we'll go with that. You'd be a good banker.
This is because I have curly hair.
No.
Oh.
So what was your experience like trying to build up your connections? Because as we know, you have a lot of connections to the various farms and suppliers across the country and possibly outside of the country. So, how did you sort of like build your network as a wholesaler?
What you have to do is gain the trust of who you're buying from, and they will tell you what's good, bad, or indifferent, and they'll steer you away from, you'll say, "Hey, I need some bala sharks this week," and they go, "No, you don't." And I go, "Are they bad?" Because they realize they're sitting in an office and their boss is sitting right next to them, and they go, "Yeah, yeah," and so you just know not to order them. But you also have to learn to trust them because they'll say, "You know what? We've got this particular new item. It's selling like hotcakes. You need to try this." And you know what? It's $120 for a bag of these particular fish. And I would say, "You know what? Send them and we'll try it." And they've never steered me wrong.
Are there any of those that you have tried or ones that you wish you tried?
No, I tried a lot of them. The ones I wish I wouldn't have tried is I bought some arowana one time.
One time?
One time. It's my own mistake. I didn't ask them how many they were packed. How much are the arowana? Oh, they're $10.50 a piece. Okay, go ahead and send them to me. They're packed 100.
100 arowana. And here's the catcher. To pack that small, they were freshly hatched. So arowanas are born with their yolk hanging below their body. So the success rate of 100 packed arowana when Jimmy was not prepared, much less open yolk, was incredibly just devastating. Like, how many did you have left?
I probably sold about 15 when it was all said and done. And if I could have got $100 a piece for them, I'd have made money, but I didn't. Finally found somebody who would take them off my hands. But yeah, you got to learn to ask questions. Are they packed 100 or are they packed 300?
Also, one other thing that we got that, you're going to need to try these. Amazing success rate. Kind of recent. I was like, within the last year and a half. Tutti Frutti frogs.
I sell the crap out of them.
Just that those exist are crazy in our mind, but they were right. One of the fastest selling things ever. They take albino clawed frogs and dip them in dye. Like, crazy process. Can't believe they did that. But you'll never know what you'll get, but at least you'll get an experience. Just ask pack rate.
Jim, asking for a friend. Do they taste good when you lick them?
Oh God, let's talk about toad licking. There's nothing better. The getting back to Tutti Frutti frogs. And I have certain stores that hate any of these items that are dyed. They're not injected. They're dyed. It's like dyeing an Easter egg. And after they're tissue absorbed. They put them in there, but they're taking something that in most people's minds are ugly, like let's say a white fruit tetra or a white albino clawed frog, and they take them and they dye them different colors. And here's the selling point. Seriously, I mean, everybody wants one of each color.
It's the truth.
It's the truth.
Like, you go through and people are like, I want a pink, green, and yellow one. Like, they'll just go through and get a batch.
And the beautiful thing about albino clawed frogs is they eat everything in the tank. And so not only are you going to sell them 3 albino clawed frogs, in 2 weeks you're going to sell them 12 neons because that's what they just ate.
And mind you, Jim's selling these at pet stores. Jim lets them know, hey, these are dyed, really unethical. And they're like, don't care. We're going to get them either for you or someone else. And they're like, oh, it's just the worst thing. And that's kind of what's happening everywhere. So they're trying to look at what's a cheapest bread and butter fish no one sells. And they dip them. Frogs, they couldn't sell them. They're gray, kind of warty looking. They dip them, and now they're Easter colors. Just a really weird trend. Sorry, that was a big tangent.
It's just like glow danios. I mean, we keep coming up with new colors of glow danios, glow tetras.
And Robs and I,
we are not fans.
Robs and I, we were alive. We were children in the 90s, and you know what was really popular at the time? Catching them all.
Pokemon. Wait, that's copyright.
Yeah, I was going to say
that's a review.
I was artfully dodging this, but you just.
Hey, I'll dive in there. I'll take the risk.
And exactly right. I mean, I'm not there to judge people if they want the product, and it's legal, and I can get it for them. I'll sell it to them. I don't have to be a fan. there's some stuff that I'm not a fan of, and but people love all the time. I'm not a fan of like albino Corys, and people love them.
So why don't you like albino Corys? Because I see that Rob's has a handful over here.
Genetically they're so weak, and they don't do well in transshipping. They do great from Florida, but if you transship them in, they don't do well. Just like Blackmore goldfish don't do well because genetically they're so weak. But people love the Blackmore goldfish. They love the albino Cory cats.
Jimmy's not into buying product just to have the end customer of the store watch them all crap out. Jimmy wants to live at the base level of care.
Well, if I can't sell them, they can't sell them, and if I can't get them a good quality product, then why waste our time?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're talking about Florida, and how did you build up the relationship with Seacrest Farms?
I made a phone call to them because when you transship, you purchase, let's say, for instance, neon tetras. And Florida raises beautiful neon tetras. You also can import them. At the time, they're approximately the same price, but what Seacrest Farms offers that nobody else does is I can buy in smaller quantities for a great price. So, rather than something...
Getting 500 in a pack,
right?
You're getting 50.
Right. Yeah. And, because some of those things I need to have, but they don't sell that well. Let's say like even 15 years ago, Cardinal Tetras were real hard to keep alive. And we always talked about hedging our bet. You don't want to buy 300 to find out they all suck. I'll buy 50 to see if they suck, and lose that little bit of money versus losing a whole lot of money. And so that's where Seacrest Farm fits in so beautifully for me, is they have small quantities. They have a huge selection. So if somebody wants a blue diamond discus, I can call up Seacrest Farms, get one blue diamond discus sent to me, and not have to buy a bag of blue diamond discus, which will cost me about $300. So it's all about how far can you make your dollar stretch and still have a nice selection of fish for people.
Yeah, and you really don't want any discus staying around here because, as I've seen with Rob's and his experience, they're very hard to keep alive.
When you have 7 point plus pH, they generally don't tolerate a whole lot, even long term. Got to have an RO unit, man.
I mean, I could,
preach it.
For a bit there, I could just see like one a day popping from you, but that was kind of rough.
Yep, it was not a good day. Days, not a good week. Weeks.
Yeah, so let's transition a little bit over to Rob's. Give Jimmy a bit of a break if you want to go. Smoke if you got him. Hey man, whatever floats your boat.
I'm gonna go.
He's a rocker. It's more heroin.
It's a little.
And I don't shoot it. I snort
We'll just
it.
keep that under the bridge there.
It's in the McRib.
They're getting really creative with how to get it in you these days.
They are.
That's how they get you.
McRibs?
So you should put the
Yeah,
COVID vaccine
still.
in the McRib, and we all be vaccinated.
Got them all for it.
Got them all.
I would do it in a second. Are you going to get the COVID vaccine?
100%.
I am
Well,
too.
I mean, I see the Pfizer commercial. They said, you trust us with your dick, because they make the Viagra, right? So you trust us with your dick. Why not trust us with the vaccine? Seems fair enough to me.
Wow. I thought I was going to nut.
So switching over, Rob's. What sorry guys, it's just how I function. I just wait for everything to calm down.
As
and
well,
then
you
I
should.
continue.
We
It's-
have
this
to
is my,
tangent.
This is my programming. See, now, Rob's. What was, again, sort of using that phrase? What was your sort of aha? Like you witness something that just makes you stand there and go, "Whoa, fish."
Oh, so I was like, I don't know, 6 or something at my grandmother's house, looking at the fireplace mantle, and she would actually have a stepping stool just for me, so I could go up there, prop myself against the stepping stool, and just stare at this. I think it was like a 75-gallon, maybe plus. To me, like a tiny person, I was looking into the wonderland that I've never seen before in my life. It was better than TV. It was a massive community tank. I would watch all these corridoras dig through different mixed substrates. She would have an array of a lot of different breeding baskets with a lot of stuff going on. This is when she was toning down after doing a bunch of different breeding. And my mother would literally go visit grandma type thing, stay for 3 hours, and then we go home. Catch me fell asleep on the step stool, leaning right against the fish tank, literally face against the glass, drooling.
You were wedged.
I don't remember
because you're never little.
Oh no!
You're just wedged.
When I was 6, I looked like a person. Now I look like I ate that person. So that person's no longer on. So I can't remember an aha moment. I just remember like the first like heart to heart experience. Like I have to have this forever. It's there. I love it to death. I always asked Mom for fish, and it was just over. Grandma's aquarium was always the coolest thing in the world, and still have tons of memories of that.
Yeah. So what sort of was your grandma's level of expertise? Because there's this familial connection that a lot of people have within the hobby that, I learned tonight that Jim as well has a story about his grandma doing this, that it sort of gets passed down in the family. So what really was your grandma's level of expertise? My
grandmother had a lot of different expertise. She started, from what I can tell from documentation, from the early 60s, if not 1960, and dove into the hobby. Her and her husband both were into it pretty heavy. They were trying to find, I'm assuming, family-friendly things that they could afford to do, so they have their own hobby and they can participate with their children. So they would raise all these fish and have a lot of fun doing it. They did make trips to Minneapolis, go down to the pet stores at the time, and she would make a mission to try, kind of find what she likes the best. Breed here and there, obsessed with community tanks, hated cichlids, and I'm pretty much in the same boat. I think I've grown to love cichlids over time. Some varieties like shell dwellers, stuff that are more unique. But if I'm looking at an African cichlid tank, I almost could care less. That's just how I've always been. But her expertise, really big into betas. There wasn't much high-end betas, at least as far as I can tell from her notes and the stories she's told me. And so she tried to ask for imports, stuff like that, and then bred out of her house. And she would keep male pairs together, grown up from tiny babies, keep them together and sell them as permanent pairs to never be separated. Normally, male betas attack and kill each other. So having two male betas in the same tank that are grown up from a tiny baby miraculously didn't kill each other. They've always been together. They've never been separated, and there's never been aggression. Now, if you put in a third beta, over. But if you keep the pair together, you can sell them as is.
Yeah, and I think that sort of like that continual discovery is something that I see with you, with your sort of choices in the hobby, because I don't know how many times you've just told me like, hey, I just got this, or, Jimmy, how often is Rob's like, this is my thing now?
Every 15 minutes.
Every 15 minutes, and that's what it feels like. I mean, there's a while there he just had 10 lawnmowers out in the yard, and he's like, I'm into small engines now,
or at least I'm getting a taste. I think it's more of just like, do I like this? If not, here's an affordable way I could try. We're going to give this a good, solid college go and find out what my thing is.
Yeah, and I think that's admirable in its own way. I love dabbling in everything, like me dabbling in fish stuff, but I'm not ready to commit. I'm not feeling it. But
unless it's Dennis and Barb's, then it's over.
Unless it's Dennis and Barb's, then it's over. I swear to God. Okay, you put that one in timeout. If that barb dies, we're done, sir. That barb is a treasure.
He's finally on the up curve after all this time.
One of the funniest things is when I said the word Denizen Barb, and you just lost your mind.
I lost my mind. Like, the name. Like, normally it's like roseline shark or cool-looking fish was what I was expecting. But full-on Denison Barb, like, I'm sold. Like, you did your homework at that moment. I'm like, micro-interview time. You've been doing your homework.
Yeah, that fish is, 6 inches long? He's a national treasure, a lot like Tom Hanks.
But he didn't get COVID. That's the fish didn't get COVID.
Yeah, but he has ick, so, I mean, teach their own.
Yeah, you have to deal with it sometimes.
He is your fish room's dad, clearly, just as Tom Hanks is America's dad. Yeah, so what sort of was your beginning in the hobby then? So you have this grandma who's crazy expert at this. I've seen the book. I think it's super fun, with all the notes that you put in there. So when did you start getting serious about it?
Pretty much right away. Grandma had the tanks. Set something up at my house. I live in a lake, so every day was going out to go fishing. Love the water world that I grew up in, and always had some sort of aquarium on hand. It was always something small. I was really poor growing up, really, really poor. So if I had a tank, it was something that I found at a garage sale, bits and pieces. And I remember doing odd jobs for the neighbor that owned ostriches. I would go out, feed the ostriches, to help them with chores. That was in and of itself a complete story. But I'd save my pennies from the ostrich farmer, and finally I was able to buy 2 different tanks, a small 40-gallon with a stand, and then another 75-gallon, which I still have in my basement.
Jim, what is it with this area with people in exotic animal farms?
We don't have tigers. We need more tigers.
I've never heard of the ostrich story, so that surprised me.
I heard about, I come from the town with
you
peacocks.
peeked up.
I perked right up. I was taking a nap.
We've got the peacocks and the buffaloes where I'm from, and apparently ostriches over in
Literally,
neck of the woods.
The buffaloes are literally in the city park.
Yeah,
it's the weirdest shit you've ever experienced.
See, where I grew up, there's at least 2,500 buffalo within a 5-mile radius of where I grew up. So I grew up around buffalo my whole life, and to me, it's not anything exciting anymore. Not like a prairie dog or something that's cool.
Oh, prairie dogs are great.
God,
they're so much fun. They just they go in and out.
All right, small tangent on the ostrich thing. You weren't allowed to wear hats. You shouldn't have long hair, because all ostriches pick the shit out of you. If you walk in, they're very social creatures. As long as they're not breeding, they're pretty tame.
I'm reminding myself.
They'll grab your hat and run with it.
I'm remembering how Robs would always talk about his luscious, long, curly hair in his youth, and I'm getting some ideas in my head here.
Yep, they'd try to whap the noodles. And let me tell you,
you're talking about your hair, right?
Dewey, the ostrich farmer, thought it was the funniest shit ever. I'm sitting there, ow, fucking, and just going off, and I'm holding a feed bucket. No, feed him, and he's just giggling.
I mean, an ostrich probably likes ramen, I guess.
I wasn't I'm 6 foot 2. The ostriches are huge creatures, and there's no equalizing with them. They're towering above you, and they pick your hair. What can I say?
Well, Robs, I always thought that you were pretty submissive.
And ostrich omelets are pretty dope.
So,
okay,
that's a segue.
Yeah, it's a segue. That's a segue into talking about an ostrich butt. So I don't want to know if I'm.
Oh, do you have anything to add here?
No, I've got nothing on ostriches.
Other than he does feel like he wants to put his head in the sand.
No, I just was thinking to myself,
laugh at that, damn it!
I wish an ostrich would kick him in his nuts.
That was such low hanging fruit there.
Oh, we just recently went over to Brainerd, Minnesota, to our local zoo over there, and we got to feed giraffes, and that's my new fascination, these giraffes. And
get out the credit card.
I think I need one.
Yes. Well, we know that he has issues with credit cards. Okay,
Oh, not anymore. Right?
Not anymore.
No, they've been taken away.
He's thoroughly chastised.
All right. So, kind of going back to this knowledge that was sort of passed down from your grandma to you, and we have a very literal form of this in the book. And Jim, I assume that you would have learned a thing or two as well from your folks. So what sort of, I don't know how to phrase this without it sounding a little weird.
Let's go to the weird places.
So what do you think was lost when they are no longer with us? This information that they have. I don't know. Yeah, see, I don't know how to phrase this.
No, I feel like that was pretty well put. Everything. You can go to an encyclopedia, Wikipedia page, fish lore website, whatever you're looking at, and find what they have as, here's parameters, here's what we've seen as their diet, here's the breeding. But they don't really tell you insider secrets. They don't tell you when water changes, they have brilliant color. When you introduce mysis shrimp along with zebra danos, they have an interaction between them, maybe protecting a cave. There's so many anecdotal notes that are so valuable in the hobby that only either experts, people that have put a lot of heart and soul into it, all that information gets lost from a transition. And our transition, mom passes away. You cherish those memories and stories, and if there's someone you can share it with, you found a podcast to do it with, great. There's just so many people that are experts out there in different fields that I think we can glean, and we don't lose that. I have, again, book from Grandma's notes. I definitely take that to heart. As I'm sitting there showing you the book, putting my own anecdotal notes, and just realizing I'm not publishable, but I should certainly record this somewhere. What I've learned is valuable to at least me and mine. Imagine what someone with a PhD or 35 years of breeding has, just to compare to someone like me that just does this for a hobby.
What I miss about the whole thing is the simplicity of it all. I mean, how easy it was. I mean, back in the day when our grandmothers were alive, there was no Google, there was no internet. And it was a book, maybe an encyclopedia, and they're just going off of what they've been told by pet stores or they've learned on their own. And they never made it hard. I mean, sometimes I think we take this hobby and we make it too hard. And back in the day, we weren't worried about pH and that sort of thing. We're just doing water changes. Fish aren't acting right. Let's do a water change and maybe throw a little salt in. And I remember my grandmother always had a box of that aquarium salt there and stuff. And I miss the simplicity and the actual just fun of it. I mean, we spent a lot of hours doing different things, trying different, colors of gravel, the old clown puke and all that stuff. And I just miss the simplicity and the camaraderie and the fun of it all.
Everybody, I'm assuming, because again, how I started into it was being poor, not having a lot of connections, being a kid. Everything's a mystery. And I'm assuming that's how it was for you. Is it's just fun exploring, learning new things. The only thing you hope you would have is maybe an aquarium club 6 hours away that you couldn't go to.
Yeah.
So,
and I don't know how you'd find out about the aquarium club. Honestly, I mean, it was either phone calls or you saw something on the bulletin board, and that was it. There was no, putting it on the internet and or getting on a mailing list is probably another thing.
You felt like Indiana Jones discovering some treasure on your own.
Yeah, so there's, as you said, there's so much information out there today, and I think there's a lot of people, especially if you read any comment section, who are very good at spewing that information back out and telling you how, you might be doing it wrong because this said to do that. So, and a lot of these things, once they get passed around enough, sort of become the new common knowledge and sort of the new conventional wisdom. Whereas with what you guys are talking about is sort of that this is my lived experience and my way of handling things. So with sort of information today of like what needs to live in what kind of water and like what kind of situations and how often you should be doing this and what fish you need to pair with, how important is that? Either you could say either conventional wisdom or traditional wisdom, and also how important do you think it is to challenge that?
So let's pick on Jim Kitchen, right? He was on, I can't remember the episode number. Jim Kitchen is an expert on Pseudacanthicus, and at the time, most of the Pseudacanthicus species were not bred in captivity. So he pioneered on that, basically going to those exact same scenarios that you sat with your family, Jimmy, trying things out. Let's see, something's happening, water changes. Something else is happening, let's try testing it on our own because there's no book for this. And the stuff, the anecdotal traditional wisdom, if you will, that he provided, just like one of the examples where getting him to breed, he understood that females are getting choked in traditional caves that they make. They're not able to breathe. In a mud bank, they would have at least enough where they could get oxygen through the water going through the mud. So he contacted universities, talked to art professors, and said, hey, can you make me a cave with specialty clay that's breathable? And he gave them the exact instructions. They had interns at colleges make caves, and he was able to successfully breed, first time in hobbies, species of Pseudacanthicus with anecdotal, traditional information, and stuff like that is 100% invaluable. That's where are we going to have an expert that has 75 different versions of Pseudacanthicus never before bred in the hobby and make sure that that correct information gets passed? It's just not. It's if that goes with his notes and he passes, it's lost forever. So if we're able to touch someone in a 60-minute, hour and a half episode and able to grab, at least their most vivid points that they've learned for anecdotal evidence, we have done the best thing that we never could have assumed to do with the podcast.
Yeah, with Jim Kitchen, a.k.a. also known as the Plico King. Jim Kitchen, what a wonderful guy. And he shared all these secrets with us and with all of our listeners. And for those of you who know Jim Kitchen is, it's no surprise. I mean, you know this. It's no secret. His health he's in poor health. He has Parkinson's disease. It took us many hours to record that particular episode because
a couple breaks throughout, and we made it comfortable for him.
Yeah, because he was having problems with his Parkinson's and stuff. But he stuck in there with us through the whole thing. He says, no, I want to get this done. I want to get this information out. And, when we got done, we kind of got off the air with him and stuff. And we were very, very humbled that this man took time. I mean, he's not doing well. He took time off to tell us secrets to help other people because he doesn't want to take them to his grave. And that was a very humbling experience for all of us. And we are very, very humbled to have him on the podcast, and I can't thank him enough.
Now, you mentioned, is it important to challenge information? I believe that's always. If you're getting information on a website, number one, you don't know where that came from. Wikipedia can be changed by everybody. It's literally the encyclopedia of the world. So if you want to make a clerical edit, guess what? You can. And that might turn into some dead fish. One of the things, I'm looking over at my 90-gallon tank, right? Literally read this through books throughout the 50s of rummy nose tetras. They weren't hugely popular for years. I think it was like 90s is what we did homework with when they finally took like nano tank craze. And the information that they had in 1950, because they have that same book by the Axelrod wrote, and they've made revisions to it over the years. And I have the original copy all the way up to some newer copies. And that's one of the books my grandma made notes in. The original copies, little to no information. Basically told where they came from. It had a drawing. It did not have a picture. It had a rudimentary drawing of what they could have even looked like. And had no information. Next edition, they look like they're shoaling species. Ooh, who knew? And the revisions came as more and more information trickled. Well, we've seen them in hobbies. They're now farmed in the hobby, and people are like, oh, they're a tetra. They school. You need slow-moving water. Well, let's challenge that traditionally. Slow-moving water, where do they come from? So talking with Ivan that we just had on the podcast, he's sitting there watching them climb up small waterfalls, like going through whitewater rapids with ease. Just seeing them jump in the rapids where they're happily sitting at all times. So traditional information can certainly be skewed. Take it as is, as a starting place, and then explore from there.
Yeah, and how important do you think it is for people to, find out this information on their own, to do the hard work and the exploration?
When we started this podcast, it was my concern is that I'm the oldest guy in the podcast, and I feel like there's not a lot of young people coming into the hobby. And when I first started in this, nobody would give me any information. And like I said, I started out in the 90s. There wasn't really, the internet out there to look up stuff. And is very, very frustrating when people would sit there and say, "Yeah, I can't tell you." And so it was kind of like my goal to help out younger people to bring them into this hobby, because right now, I mean, honestly, all the young people, all they want to do is be on their phone. They want to be playing Pokemon or doing whatever they do on their phones. And you go to these fish clubs, and there's nothing but old people. I mean, I'm not picking on them. I'm just saying that there's not a lot of young blood in there. Down in the Minneapolis area, there's a lot of people that are bringing their children and grandchildren into it, and that's what excites me about it. Let's get these kids involved. Let's keep this going. I mean, I always feel like we're a little bit behind aquarium keeping from other countries like Germany and whatnot. And I mean, those folks over there are just rabid about how they keep fish. I mean, and look at how over in China, how they keep goldfish. I mean, they put them up on a pedestal, and they're spending thousands and thousands of dollars on goldfish. So I just wanted to bring some awareness to the young people, and to not put it in a dried out scenario. I mean, we have a lot of fun. We have a lot of laughs. We talk about punching each other in the throat, and Robbie talks about nutting. So
Nut.
So anyway, we just wanted to try to bring a little excitement and a few laughs, because when I listen to something on the radio, I can learn something, but if I get to laugh, it's just a bonus.
So, you're talking about how it's beautiful in China what they're doing with goldfish, and sort of the level of enthusiasm in other countries that you just perceive to be it's a more popular thing. People are more into it, and I do think that when you get to a certain point in this craft, and I would very much call it a craft, and that's sort of what I identified with, was that these are guys who are taking a lot of time to learn something that they love, and also, get good at it. So, but on the other hand, it's fish keeping to me sort of seems like performance art, because depending on what species you have, they could be short-lived or long-lived, but a lot of them sort of end up on the short end. So it's fleeting in this way, because you're literally dealing with keeping something alive. And how do you sort of deal with that as part of the process, that what you're doing has a time limit?
I just don't look in the mirror. If I look older today, I just don't want to be reminded by my fish. No, I think it's most prevalent in killifish, right? Killifish have the best amount of documentation, not necessarily as for the species, but who else, like, if you talk about cichlids, there's not like a massive, like, AKA cichlid association like killifish do. Killifish have diehard fan bases. They have more documentation than anybody else. They have auctions. They make it better than any other fish club to join, but yet it's still not popular. You'll see only select amounts of the hardiest of killifish, but yet you don't see a bunch of different kinds. Access to them's a little bit mixed, and it's because a large majority of them are annual species, and that is extremely intimidating for people to start into, including myself. I'm getting into it. I've done it in the past, but not to the degree I feel like it should have been. I feel like there's an injustice done. I need to know more to share more. We just had a fantastic gentleman talking about killifish on the podcast, and it just blows my mind that more people aren't into it. It's literally the most colorful species you would get in freshwater is killifish, and yet hardly anybody touches them because, well, it's not going to be like my cat that lives 10 years. So I think there's a bit of a gap there for some certain species, but I think that it's not talked about. I have people calling me asking, hey, my beta just died. What did I do wrong? Well, how long have you had your beta? 7 years. Well, that's incredible. That's a nice, good, long lifespan for a beta. Like, you should feel accomplished. Like, you gave them a nice, long, healthy life. Clearly, you had them in the correct environment.
And that's one of those things that really, really got me in, is that, you build these relationships with your fish over time. I think a lot of the people who don't look into it just beyond the bare surface, like maybe they've seen a tank in like a doctor's office or like a dentist's, and you're like, oh, it's nice to look at, but until you start like looking into it a little bit.
My cat is just so adamant this evening.
He loves me.
He's horny. The cat.
Oklahoma.
Blueberry pancakes.
The blueberry pancakes are getting me. That's every time I hear that one, it's just. But oh, great. Where was I? This is awesome.
You're kind
About getting connection with your fish
Yeah,
and life expectancy.
not even like getting connection like with the fish that you have. It's being able to see the relationships that other people who are into it have, because if I may invoke their name, a great example of this is what the guys over at OFR are doing, the Ohio Fish Rescue, where they will keep people's fish so that they can come and see them again, even though the original owners no longer, can take care of them themselves. And there's just something about this community that is so heartwarming and so kind if you just know where to look. And on the surface level of it, you think, that's fish. They're nice. They just kind of float around until you sit down and you look at them. And then you start seeing like, oh, this one's got an interesting behavior. And then suddenly you know how to pick out the one of the school, and you give that one a little name. And then, you start to like it more, and you like this guy more. And, oh, well, this guy I've had for 5 years, he's insert name here. Or I'd imagine if One-Eyed Willie really, does a good job here, he's going to be one for the history books. But sort of these...
Not your penis, Jimmy. Not your penis.
Jimmy, do you have one eye there? I'd be concerned.
So I don't think I've told many people about what happened with that fish, by the way, if I can go on a tangent.
Yeah, sure.
I went to a pet store down in the cities, and I got asked for you got any rainbow fish on hand? I only have 2 females. My male Basami died a long time ago. He had a growth. And I just maybe they have something. So I look in their back tank, and they have a bunch of like 1.5 inch, 1 inch Basami rainbows because COVID decides to ruin everything. Do you have any other fish? He's like, oh, One-Eyed Willie? Like, what are you talking about? Oh, let me show you. He's got this beautiful full-grown Basami rainbow, and it's literally has one eye. He can't sell it. No one will take it. I'm like, I'll take it. No, on the house. And he just gives it to me. And now I have a wonderful fish. And yes, it only has one eye. Call it Lucky the dog. But definitely that's focus. It's named. And now, of course, he's the center of attention in the tank. So the connections that you'll have with your fish and cats that really demand your attention during the
I don't know
podcast.
why we brought the cats to the cabin, honestly. We'll just take you over here and edit this part.
You said bring pussy to the cabin. I just showed up with it.
Jim, I'm glad that you were literal in this way.
You can edit that out.
Nope.
Yeah, so if anybody out there is not really too much into fish, I don't know if there's anybody who would be a listener like me who, isn't into it but kind of vibes with your energy.
I'd like to apologize for the addiction now that you have. And also, what have you named the Denison Barb?
Well, you got the 3 new ones. I forgot about the big one.
No, wait. What are those were the 3 new ones you named?
It was okay, so Rob's got 3
Dewey,
Denison
Huey,
Barbs.
and Louie?
No, it was Denise, Denick, and Dennis.
I feel like that's perfect.
Rob's knows how to please me because he's been
I do.
Blueberry pancake.
I get banana pancake.
You didn't
That's
say
Jack Johnson.
You didn't say Oklahoma. I'm a little scared right now.
I want some pancakes. I have diabetes.
So he gets them. I know he's been after these things for months, right? But he just can't get them for, I don't know. Maybe there's something going on in the world right now that makes it difficult. But he finally did, and I tell you what, I have never been happier. It's
It's just for you. Clearly.
exactly, and I appreciate it.
You're welcome. I can accommodate with fish.
This is such a shit love fest, I tell you.
Like
You guys-
honestly, I don't know why you're broadcasting this to people because it's got to be just a
I'm
snooze
just
fest.
gonna turn down the freaking lights, and you two can hold hands.
They asked for an interview.
We'll
but
play Muskrat Love, and you two can just giggle in the moonlight.
I just feel like he nailed the connection because everybody's like, "Oh, fish! Like you can't pet a fish like a cat. You can't."
Some of them you can,
Well,
and that blew my mind. I
penis-
was like, oh wait,
penis
you can
fish.
You can do what with a penis fish or an Oscar or something like that?
Right. Again, weather loaches will come up and they'll interact with you. They actually physically want attention, snacks and treats. But no, most fish you can't, so it's hard to interact with. So I'm glad you got that point down. And hilarious, you got to name my fish. But do continue.
Well, I mean, somebody's got to. But you know, and it's sort of like why do I love that fish is because you know they just dart around the tank and they try to school with anything in there if possible, so they make everything else run around the tank really fast, and you're not gonna understand that and get an appreciation for it unless you take the time to be like, oh, let's go beyond the surface level, because you know I was working on an idea for a documentary about the hobby because I was like, there's so much going on here that I think is so crazy between the familial passing the hobby down through the generations. The fact that everybody calls it the hobby was the first funny thing. They're just like, they're talking about it like you have to be in the know, right? Like, oh, I'm in the hobby.
Jimmy, you got to be in the hobby.
You know, you watch a guy on YouTube who just started out and maybe bought a tank like 2 weeks ago, and he's like, yeah, I'm in the hobby. They're so confident about it. It's like they really want to be there. And you know,
Apparently, it's elitism. Who knew?
to me, no, it's not really elitism, but you got to be in the know, you know. So, and the other funny part is,
I'm gonna pray for both of you tonight when I go to bed.
That the Tiger King blew up during COVID, and it just seems like the perfect film. I mean, honestly,
I don't know where you're going with that, but
I don't get it.
you know,
Tiger King, eccentric people
Jim-
and fish.
Jim, how long are we going to put up with him? Honestly,
You know, it's kind of like when you choke a Smurf. You know, how do you know when to let go?
All right, you got any more questions?
yeah.
I mean, at what shade of blue do you stop holding him under the water?
But what I mean is, as I'm explaining what I see to other people, because that's my job, is
Right.
take my excitement and pass it on to other people. My medium is just film, whereas your medium is podcast. So everyone who I tell who they don't keep fish themselves, they're like, wow, wait, what is going on? And sort of like, it's such an easy sell to people to like, isn't this like, there's some crazy stuff going on here, but it's also like crazy cool. And there was nobody who I talked to who was like, I don't know. So I think that's a little bit of a sign there. You guys do
We're hot
do some
or cold.
interesting stuff.
As a community, apparently.
Yeah. And let's see, where else am I gonna go with this? This is the part that we edit.
Wait, where's the pancakes on your list?
He's gonna take it down a dark highway. Is what worries me.
He saved the best for last. Don't worry.
Really?
It's all your questions after this.
You know, so I've started to formulate an opinion of what I, as an outsider, would sort of see successes or being successful in the hobby, and I'm gonna say what I think it is, and then I would like you to sort of give your opinions on that, and then both of your own individual ideas of what being successful in the hobby is. So,
Not $18,000.
well, obviously, but now I would define success in the hobby as you have fish, you are living them to their full size and to their full lifespan, and that's it. That is what I would define as being successful. I think it's a series of getting better at having your fish not die.
I mean, yeah. And then up from there, can I breed them? Is it good quality stock? Can I make a better fish? Can I make something shinier? Can I have it have a cooler tail? can I do this for a living is always like, oh, I like fish. Wouldn't it be cool to have a pet shop and then not know what's going on? So everybody has a different vote of success. We've had people on the podcast that measure the success in competitions. Not only how well can you keep it alive, but how can you have it thrive? How can you have it have the best attitude? Like the flower horn episode we had was nutty. It was a lot of cock jokes. I get it. KOK, the ball on the forehead. But if honestly, talking to him about the passion of competing was Westminster Kettle Club stuff. So everybody has a bit of a difference, but that is the base measurement of success. Can I emulate in my square piece of hardware the best environment for this creature to live a full and successful life? I mean, that's bread and butter to me.
I agree.
That's it?
Yes.
So
You're that guy in like, okay, everybody in the class, you got to make sure that you comment on everyone's stuff. And Jim's over here like, I agree. He'd be like, that was really helpful. That was super constructive. Thanks, Jim.
well, Jimmy's a business guy. Jimmy's measurements of success is making sure you're delivering a good product, and you're blowing kisses at me.
No, ching.
Ching.
The
And
maximum
and doing
amount of,
doing it with a thick
Profitable.
wallet.
Yeah, so I would say that mine is focused sort of a lot on the ethical side of doing right by the fish, which that's sort of my own personal view of it. So, do you have a different view of what success is, as a wholesaler?
of a wholesaler, what I would deem a success is getting the product that my customers want. I love a challenge. I know Robbie does too. When somebody says, "Oh, can you get me this certain betta?" There's a new betta that was just published in Tropical Fish Hobbyist magazine here a couple of months ago, and I've been looking for this particular betta. I personally think it's very, very ugly. It's kind of a plain betta with a one spot on it, and I don't have the name of it offhand. But I've been looking for this now from about 3 or 4 different wholesalers. I'm getting closer to getting it. But every time something new comes out in a magazine, it drives some sales and stuff. So to be able to find that as a wholesaler and get it into the marketplace faster than anybody else is what I really try to go for.
That's how Jimmy and I actually expanded our hobby together. I had this insatiable thing to learn everything about all these species I haven't had. So I started going through Jimmy, because Jimmy's a fantastic connection, and we're finding all kinds of crazy species that even in my grandma's documentation says I've only seen once, don't know how to try again, maybe weren't even in fish books. Like I always mention anableps. Jimmy found the anableps for us. They almost never come up on fish lists, and they're like a crazy bug-eyed, four-eyed creature dolphin. And we decided that we're kind of good at finding unique things. Jimmy has a lot of different connections. I have a lot of different private party connections, and we decided to do a business together. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, so I'm sure that people might enjoy hearing your misadventures before you guys started, becoming the aquarium guys and doing this podcast. So, other than both touching the same gallon of RO water in the grocery store and being soulmates ever since,
We touched jugs.
now what?
No, we did not.
Okay.
So, how did you guys end up going into business together, and sort of what happened between saying like, oh, you don't need RO water in this town, and hey, we're running a business?
Well, I was minding my own business once again, and I was at the local grocery store after we had just moved into this town. I moved from another town 20 miles over. I see this goon, Robbie. So I saw this goon over there filling up all the RO. He was standing there and filling RO. And
I was trying to do 100 gallons of RO in jugs. 5 gallons a jug.
And
That's a lot of math. And I was doing trips back and forth in my house.
And so I said to him, I says, I think you said something about you're filling your aquarium. And I just said, be careful. If you put straight RO water in there, you will strip the body slime off the fish and kill them. And I should have just kept walking, because then I wouldn't be doing this podcast with Robbie. But that's how we met. And I had previously, 5 years earlier, had been running RO water in a 125-gallon tank. I got distracted. I had somebody over there helping me, and I thought I was going to do like 50% RO. I went to lunch. I came back. The tank was full. The RO was pulled out. I threw in about 75 angelfish, and I watched the body slime come off of them and watched them all die within about 10 hours.
Strip anything off a paint. I had a remineralizer, but you sat there like, no, I live in the same town. You don't need to use RO. We have pretty good water for fish, and showed me some more testing strengths.
Yeah, so it was just, just trying to save a fellow fish lover from killing his fish. I'd brought in all these angelfish in to be my breeders, and what I'd like to do is throw 75 fish in a 125-gallon tank and watch them pair off and pull pairs. I had 100 pairs at the time, and I thought I knew what I was doing, but there again, just a simple mistake, and I killed a lot of fish. So it's just trying to help out your fellow aquarist and making sure that you don't do the same stupid thing I did.
So we started talking back and forth. I'm like, holy shit, I live in a tiny town. There's a fish, another fish guru, and just different questions. And he's like, so what do I want to put in there? I'm like, I've never done freshwater lobster before. Never done that at all. So he's, oh, I can get you those. You can get me those? Are you some sort of like mystical dealer? Yeah. Like, what? And then he's like, no. Like, what else are you looking for? I'm like, well, some of these, like, no, those aren't compatible. I've tried it. And plus, you can't even order into Minnesota. And this dude was just wealth of knowledge. I spent immense amount of money getting rare fish through retail means. And I mean, like, doing favors. Like, I had to spend, what was it, $150 for one female rainbow fish that was bred from Gary Lang stock. Now I have this new wealth of information and a connection to the wholesale market. And I finally get a taste of what the margins are on those, what he had access to, and I lost my mind. I'm a tech by trade, sort of like, you have access to all these fish, you're wholesaling to stores, why aren't you selling online? We can easily sell for lower prices online because you have all this access, and you're clearly an the practice of ordering all these fish from me and me going crazy on all the different things for a few years. Why can't we just do it for other people? So we started Fish Finders Plus with the idea that if you have a fish wish, we'll do our best to find it, and we really did. But it came into a lot of business issues. Number one, and most importantly, shipping, which is the biggest issue with right now with COVID. We had a shipping contract worked out with the Postal Service, exclusive to Postal Service. They give us lower rates because we're an online retailer. And as we're working out the contract, Amazon did a multi-billion-dollar contract with the Postal Service, and all the little guys got cut, including us. So their cut our great way of shipping to be competitive with everyone else gone. When people ask for requests, I want one of this one really special looking beta that I saw in this magazine, and we find it and then tell them, sorry, minimum quantity 100 from the one person in the world that we can find that breeds it. And they're like, oh, well, I'm good. I just wanted to pay 99 cents for something that looked cool. So the business model of finding a fish wasn't good. And we learned from people that like Steve Rubicki has been doing this for years, that the only people that really succeed online are the big box stores that do more than just online sales, like the Wet Spot in Seattle that you can get all kinds of crazy unique fish from, or people that do it better than anyone else. Like, again, we mentioned Steve Rubicki, J4 Flower Horns. There's people out there that have their corner, and they're known for the flower horn, the seahorse, the angelfish, and they just own that market.
Yeah, it's very hard to be everything to everybody.
We kept overhead low. We did close the business, but it didn't cost us too terrible much at risk. We set it up well as a test run. we learned a lot, and I would, given the chance to do it again from the stuff we've learned, absolutely.
Yeah. So,
We're sitting here as failures, aren't we, Jimmy?
I'm used to it.
well, how do you guys deal with failure? Like, because, you hear all the time fun stories about losing a lot of money from the two of you, and me no longer being able to see a really fancy Arowana that was super dope. To even just now, where I'm sitting, I'm looking at Rob's tank. He's on the phone, and I see a deathly expression in his face. Jim, I see him turn pale. Just before you got here, and Rob's he's like, I put this plant in this tank, and I just need grow space. I know it doesn't look like it fits that well, and I'm like, yeah, okay, Rob's, I think it detracts, but you're in it for the money, clearly, so I guess. And he just goes totally pale. I'm looking, and I'm like, what just happened? He's on the phone with somebody, so he's now paying attention to the tank. And I follow his eyes, and I see just the tiniest little snail. If you could see Jim's face right now, it's
No.
worth a million words. And
I got herpes, Jim.
the dojo loaches, they're digging around in the substrate. They're it looks like they're trying to find something.
Does Robbie have trumpet snails?
Yes.
We can't be friends anymore.
Don't drink the aquarium water.
We
So
live.
how do you deal with failure, Jimmy?
I live about a block away from Robbie, and tomorrow I'll have frickin' trumpet snails
Yeah, they're gonna crawl through the snow.
because he gave me plants the other day. And
Oh, different tank. You're clear. Different tank.
so you're telling me that I don't have the gonorrhea of the aquarium world right now, and I'm supposed to feel good about it?
Yes, you do not.
I'm gonna
have
go
the
home and
gonorrhea.
bathe in bleach, and then maybe drink some, what do you call it, liquid plumber, and just to clear myself of this horrible, horrible disease that you have over here.
Well, I think that answers our question. Jimmy doesn't deal with failure. Instead, he makes fun of his friends that fail worse.
Now that's projecting. That's not very healthy.
Nobody ever claimed that I was healthy. I tell you that much. You look back in history. You look back at the guy that invented WD-40. It took him 40 times to come up with a good lubricant. Seriously. Look at Colonel Sanders. Colonel Sanders, Kentucky Fried Chicken King, he wasn't a success till he was in his 60s. So I just feel like it's never too late to make yourself successful. I mean, when Rob says we're going to start doing this podcast, I thought, great. What's the worst thing that can happen? We'll have some groupies. That hasn't happened yet. No groupies.
Oh no, there's a ton. You just never have a social media profile.
That's good. I've heard about Facebook. I don't know what it is, but I'm not going to ever go on the computer.
It's that place where he got poked once and deleted it.
That's right.
Well, I don't like to get poked by strangers either.
Blueberry pancakes.
So the moral of the story is Jim punches throats, and we repeat fluke yourself a lot, and then own it and learn from it and make the next WD-40.
But were some of those moments like tough to get through?
Oh yeah, when you're paying your bill and you're going, let me see, I still owe $8,000, $5,000 for some dead fish. This is gonna suck. So yeah, it's painful to a point, but you pull up your big boy pants and you continue on. I mean, nobody ever gets ahead in life by completely quitting. It's not going to happen.
So what advice would you have out there for the people who are getting into it and they're gonna face these setbacks?
The best advice I ever got was from Paul Norton, and I've said this 100 times on the podcast. Norton Tampa Bay Fisheries at the time, and Paul Norton says, Jim, you can keep a healthy fish healthy, but you can't get a sick fish healthy. And there's a lot of truth to that. Once your fish get sick and they go downhill a little bit, it's never quite the same. So if you treat every fish that you bring home and you quarantine them and you treat them like they're sick, and before you put them in your regular community tank, you'll be so much more successful. I know we all get very excited when we come home and we want to put that new fish in that tank and stuff, but you never quite know what could be wrong with that fish and stuff. So you want to keep your healthy fish healthy, and you want to bring in your new fish and just quarantine them and treat them like they're sick. Give them a little bit of medicine just in case. So it's kind of like, having some vitamin C in case you might get a cold.
Don't go alone would be mine. Find a community. There's a ton of places online you can find, but even I'd say some of the worst places is my favorite would be Reddit. I just got a beta. I put it in a bowl, and then suddenly you have 324 comments hating you to your core. That is the easiest way to, I tried fish once 5 years ago and be one of those guys. Don't be afraid to fail, and find a place that's there to help you when stuff does go south and you didn't quarantine in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, there is no dumb question, really. I mean, if you don't know, you need to ask, and don't feel dumb about it. And don't make people feel dumb about it when you answer their question, unless it's Rob's. That's okay.
Naturally. So, you guys, now the aquarium guys, for about a year and a quarter? Year and change?
Year and some change.
So, you're 1 year in. Do you have any reflections, sort of looking back at what the journey has been thus far?
I honestly didn't think we'd ever get as far as we have. And now the future is so bright, we got to wear shades. We are getting such wonderful comments from people. We're getting such great guests thanks to Robbie. Adam is a wealth of information about reptiles, about the
obscure things in the
obscure
hobby.
things in the hobby.
I missed one you guys would shout out, in the earlier episode. So shout out to Adam.
Adam has been a friend of mine. He was one of my customers when I first started. I met Adam when he was about 15 years old, and I've been friends with Adam for about 20 years now. And, just a combination of somebody with retail experience, wholesale experience, and somebody who's just batshit crazy like Robbie, it seems to work. And it's been very successful, and looking forward to doing more stuff. And eventually, after this whole COVID thing is over, we're hoping to be able to get out and do some speaking at different places. We've had people reach out to us and ask us to come out and speak at their aquarium clubs. We're not sure what they're expecting from us, but I'm just going to bring some nachos and beer and show up.
Is there any sort of like thing that you felt sort of like either that's been sort of like, I didn't think that I would feel this way just because I've been doing a podcast, like has there been any sort of like profound effect on your life?
I mean, getting to see Jimmy at least once a week is always a good spot in my life. McRib sauce and all. Jimmy's the big profound piece of my life. Other than the community, honestly, the community just blows my mind. We have people that are on our Discord night and day, posting, helping each other with content. And literally, we only advertise the Discord on the podcast, so no one else can see it. So it's just people that know the podcast, know Jimmy's terrible punch throat jokes, and have that camaraderie and understanding that this is our passion, and they have the same mindset to share with each other. That's the hugest part, is everyone listening. Blew our mind. We're in the top 25%, north of the 25% of all podcasts because of our listens. Depending on the day, we're number one. Randy Reed of the Aquarius podcast, we back and forth with him on who's the number one podcast. Listen to that podcast. Fantastic quality. We're the guys that add little dick jokes into it for a comedic pleasure. That guy's a real deal. Check it out. But we would never have guessed that this would happen, and tickled pink by it.
I don't know if we should talk about it, Robs, but I think we seriously should. Something that blew my socks off, and I think we've never shared this with anybody.
Uh-oh.
Back in August when I was on vacation. Do you remember what happened?
Remind me.
So
you got really hammered on a cruise.
No.
Oh,
This is back in August. My wife and I were out of town, and Rob sends me this text from a listener. And it basically said, I want to thank you guys from stopping me from killing myself. Remember that?
Yeah, we get messages, a continual stream, having the podcast with a telephone number to text us, and I literally answer text messages whenever I'm awake. It just goes directly to my phone. It's got an ID filter, and I get text messages from people all over the world. We only refinedly pick questions week to week on the episode, and we're just a couple of guys that love the fish hobby, want to talk to other people and learn more about the fish hobby, and we're making a connection with people on a level we never even knew. We got people that want to know how our day went, want to know what's next in the podcast, and then just blow our minds. Like, that's the traditional stuff we get. And someone said that I was feeling low today. I thought that it was going to not be tomorrow, and just from having a laugh from guys that felt like my friends, saved my life today. Didn't expect that for a podcast at all, but if we can make any impression in someone's hobby and make their hobby a bit more enjoyable was all we're looking for, and share information. But clearly we're making way more of a connection we ever dealt with, and not a lot of tears from all the aquarium guys in the circle for that one. They caught us off guard.
And I remember the morning that you got that. I was doing my usual. I come down here. I wake up before Rob's, I used to. He's got a different job now. And I would turn on all of his tanks for him because I just thought it was kind of fun. And, he's just there in his room. And he's just sitting edge of the bed. And he's just stunned. And I'm like, oh, Rob's, what's going on? And he's like, he just didn't know that what he was doing could do that for someone else. And I think that it's because the consistency that you guys are honest, the fact that you guys are giving of, your time, your expertise, and you put a lot of effort into making sure that the people that you get are also, sharing in that same mission that you guys had, where get people to have this information, talk about something that you love, be able to express that in such a way that other people feel the same excitement that you have. You will never know what you've done for somebody else, truly, because not everyone's going to say it, but I think as you go along, it's these little kind of moments that will remind you why you do what you do.
So yeah, definitely change our SKUs for sure. And this podcast means a lot more than just what we originally intended to us. And if we can make any impact, even if we didn't expect it, we're happy to help in any way.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever talked about this on the air, and for the privacy of our listener. I mean, this was a family guy who had a nice family, has a nice family. And he was thinking about checking out. And what we said, I don't know, that made him think twice about it. But, life sucks sometimes. And if you just need a laugh, or you need a friend, or you need somebody to give you a hug, you don't ever know what you say to a person on any given day, how it affects him. My mom taught me a very valuable lesson in life. And she says, when you go into a place of business, you say hello to everybody that's working there, from the janitor to the president of the company. And just something so little as saying hello to a person, how you doing today, you might change their life. You don't know. So, as much as we love to joke and pound on each other and stuff, just to be a friend and just to be a comrade to people, that's all what life's about. Take care of each other.
And is there anything that you guys, want to say to your fans that, maybe you don't, because, in Discord, it's usually pretty light, it's pretty fun, having a good time, or like, Rob's is always on a video call with somebody after the show, it seems like. But is there anything that you guys would, want to say to your fans that you maybe felt like you haven't been able to, or haven't quite had like the right way of expressing?
I just have genuine appreciation for people stepping up and giving each other help on this podcast. They have fun, they poke fun at each other and stuff, but these people will answer your questions. They will back you 100%. And the community that has developed from this podcast just blows me away every single week. And I don't see half the stuff that Rob sees.
The amount of art creations, the amount of how do I do this? Hey, I want to try this. I've never heard anybody do this before. I even use my own community. I think last week I was asking, I set up a dehumidifier in my corner for a mess I made. I wonder if I could use that water again. And I just go to my community and like, no, I killed fish. It's gray water. So the amount of collaboration, we're not the experts in anything. We're lucky enough to get some experts, but we have such a wonderful, open, welcoming community. We love our fans to death. We expect, like, we have almost a perfect review rating. My favorite reviews are only a 3-star review. And the guy says, they're not really funny, but good information. Like, that's how we feel about ourselves.
They're not as funny as they think they are.
You guys clearly think we're something we're not, and we're blessed every day by you.
The one thing we don't ever claim to be is experts, ever. But we will try to find you the answer.
If a doctor practices every day, we're certainly doing something lower than that.
Absolutely.
Right. Well, do you guys have any plans for the future? It's end of 2020. You've got 70 episodes under your belt, except for that one that you lost, so 71. What do you guys got in the works?
Storytime is our biggest episodes. We started Storytime because we have a lot of tangents in the podcast. We collected them. Hey, can you do just a podcast filled with tangents? And it's hugely successful. We're now on Storytime 3. We've had YouTube or different celebrities we've had in the podcast before. So a lot of times it's been like a YouTube celebrity, somebody with unique stories they can bring to Storytime. Next, we want to do, and this is a call to action for you guys, we want a user Storytime episode. So for you guys that have had hilarious stories, heartbreaking stories, we want your story submissions sent to us so we can read them on the next story time. We want you guys to be the center of attention, and we're going to pick our favorites and send out prizes. We want to see what you guys got at the plate, and we already got a couple, because like I mentioned to some people in Discord, we already got a couple stories going, and they're certainly fantastic. We want that from you. Otherwise, for content, we have definitely a schedule. We book these episodes like 2 months out in advance, and we try to do these at 7 o'clock live so we can have a studio audience. And now we've broke limits in Discord for how many people can listen live. We've maxed it out a couple times. So what we're going to do now is during the live episodes only on 7 p.m., we're going to try to do these on Twitch. We've spun it up to give it a test run. We're going to have to ramp that up because we don't have enough space in Discord for people to listen live. So growing pains that we never expected to have, the listens we have, the fans we have, and now we have to look for more solutions to accommodate more people. So as far as the list, I can give you a few that are coming up on the calendar for future dates. And again, you're listening to this on Christmas, so we have a couple episodes already in the hopper, such as another episode of Dr. Fish, Killies, Seahorses. We're going to be doing an interview with Watercolors Aquarium Gallery in Michigan. They have a wonderful store that instead of it being a pet store, they want to do it as an art gallery, and you're welcome to buy their art, which is the fish. It's a wonderful concept. I'm really excited for that. We have David Boozer of the FTFFA. It's the Florida Co-op Fish Farmers. We're bringing Scott back on by popular demand from the Tint because everybody loves brown fish water. And more to come. We're continually doing a list of different content requests, and we do every episode evergreen. So if you want an episode, demand it to us on Discord. A lot of these episodes come directly from user feedback saying, I really want a flower horn episode. We got one of the grand champion flower horn owners. It's literally that back and forth. We try to listen to our fans. So message us in, and there's a hint that we might try, and this is, again, might be doing an aquarium certification course for beginners. We have so many beginners coming to our podcast, and a lot of our topics, we try to answer questions as though someone's heard about flower horns for the first time. But again, it's a lot of advanced topics. We have newcomers that have never set up a tank before that want to get into aquariums. So we want to accommodate them and have a more handhold, still comedic, college-style course where they pay for the course and become a certified aquarium guy.
And then they get a free T-shirt.
Maybe.
Oh, I'm just hoping for it.
If not, there's T-shirts available now.
Yeah, we've been doing this podcast, and every time we get a great guest, they turn us on to another great guest. Robbie's a hound dog when he follows those leads, and if so and so says these guys are okay, then these other people will come on, and so what we've been trying to do is get as many guests as possible, and we've been blessed by Segrist Farms to they allowed Dr. Fish to come on. They actually have him on the payroll. Working when he's talking to us about fish.
He is punched in, working for Segrist Farms on the podcast, helping us out with questions.
And we never thought that would be possible, and he's been wonderful. And then, so as we have the Dr. Fish episodes, we have all the other episodes, that's kind of like school. And then back to Rob's talking about story time, that's kind of like recess for us, where we just sit back and just let her rip. And so it's been a blessing. It's been very fun, and I'm looking forward to the future.
Well, guys, I want you to stay authentic, stay genuine, keep up with the humor. I hear people like it. And most importantly, just stay curious.
And as Scott Feldman says, stay wet.
Is moist a word?
We can't take his catchphrase. We'll have to do like be moist.
How about this catchphrase? Go fluke yourself.
Well, I don't know if this is exactly what you had planned when you were like, "Hey, come out to the cabin in the middle of the woods here." But that's my part. I'm gonna go say au revoir and brave the storm. So
thank you, Aaron. It's been a real pleasure having you on. Before we go, Jimmy, you have a Christmas story. It's a Christmas episode. Read them.
I need some music, dude.
All right,
you got to turn the lights down low.
Just for you, Jimmy.
Well, that's beautiful.
Little campfire going on for you?
Oh, that sounds nice.
Yes.
So as many of you remember last Christmas, my good buddy Rob Zolson sat down and he read us a beautiful, beautiful poem called The Night Before Christmas. He totally slayed it. And this is my rebuttal. And so I want to read this to you, sitting here in my smoking jacket with my pipe and sniffer of brandy. Robs, you can look up what a sniffer of brandy is.
Oh, I did. Yeah, I looked it up last year.
So you know what it is.
I do.
All right.
Yes.
So I'd like to call this one The Nightmare of Christmas. Now, this hasn't been copyrighted. Oh, maybe a few lines you'll recognize. But this is 100% from my heart, and it's all 100% true. It's called The Nightmare of Christmas. It was the night before Christmas, when all through the house, not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The scene was so dull, so bleak and so boring, I sat there drunk, staring at the flooring. So I put on my shoes and my Superman cape. Well, it's not a real cape, it's just my wife's red drapes. Silence, I kill you. You see, for most of the night, I had been drinking from a flask, so a party I was looking for, that was really my task. So after a quick walk and stumbling around, I was looking for the biggest party that could be found. I rounded the corner and saw a huge tent. Hell yeah, a block party. So off I went. The music and lights were really pumping, so I let myself in. The place was jumping. After my eyes adjusted from the darkness and lights, I started to scan the crowd. Wow, to my delight, It was all my favorite characters from all the great Christmas shows. It was like a dream. How they all got there, I really don't know. There was Ralphie from the Christmas Story. He was sitting there counting his toes. Well, now I know why. He had a spoon up his nose. In the corner, I caught just a glimpse. Heck yeah, it was Charlie Brown, but he was dressed like a pimp. So Lucy was looking real pretty and hot. Charlie Brown tried to sell her to me, but I chose not. Well, it's because we all know Lucy is crabby and bossy. And if I hooked up with her, they'd be looking for my dead posse. No, that was wrong. I gotta read that again.
That works.
No. Well, it's because we all know Lucy's crabby and bossy. If I hooked up with her, they'd be looking for my dead body with a cartoon sheriff's posse. Linus and Pigpen were doing some shots, but by the end of the night, they'd be sitting with the cops. Then there was Frosty the Snowman in the middle of the room. He was talking to all the misfit toys, all on live Zoom. You see, the coronavirus pandemic has taken its toll. Oh, good grief. There's Peppermint Patty swinging from a pole. Kermit the Frog was so drunk and so green, he'd been drinking tequila. Now he's dressed like a queen. Santa and Rudolph were flying around the big room, and there's Frosty putting him live on Zoom. And so I ask, why can't famous people have just a little bit of fun? Now on YouTube, we got a drunk Santa flying indoors, shooting off his gun. Just when the poop was really hitting the fan, Kevin from Home Alone showed up. Oh crap, this should be grand. He came right in and shook off the snow. What's he got with him? Oh, hookers and blow. As the music got louder and the party goes up a notch, what did I just see? Kevin hit Santa right square in the crotch. So just like Studio 54, live from the 80s, cocaine fell from the ceiling, and then it got crazy. You see, this year has really sucked, and it's been very depressed. So my advice to you is to get drunk and crazy and totally undressed. So when you sober up, sometimes in 2021, maybe we can all put away the drugs, the booze, and maybe even your gun. So with this simple poem, I hope to find you safe and sound, because 6 feet sucks when you're buried in the ground. So Merry Christmas, everybody. And that's how the Grinch stole Christmas. Amen.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jimmy. Merry Christmas to one and all. I need you to read my obituary someday.
Oh, definitely.
Well, from the Aquarium Guys podcast, Merry Christmas and
Happy New Year.
Sure. Till next week.
Wait, we out? We out? I'll take that as we out. Man, should have just done that, and I wouldn't have to waste 2 hours of your time.
That was so good. Oh.
I haven't seen you this dead in a while.
I pray to Jesus someone
If I had more time, I'd found more characters, but I couldn't find any more characters that I really liked from my favorite shows when I was a kid.
You know. Sometimes less is more. Well.
Merry Christmas, everybody. That's how the Grinch stole Christmas. Amen.
Thank you, Jimmy.
No.
Can I keep these papers? Okay. I need to keep these papers.
You need to publicize it.
I need to keep these papers.
I kept changing it and stuff. I still trying to get the flow right.
Well, you were excellent.
Thank you very much for doing that.
Sorry for wasting 2 hours of your life.
That's okay. Robbie's wasting a lot.
That was. Now I get my self depreciation on. No, you guys I feel like we.
I'm not gonna stop laughing at this.
Yeah.
This is the best gift you could have ever given me.
You enjoy that one?
More than you know.
The,
I had fucking Lucy giving blowjobs and shit. I thought I can't do that.
It had nothing to do with the aquariums. That's the best part. It's as though Colby held his own.
I didn't mention Adam or you or anybody.
Oh, hold on. Wait, we're still on Twitch. Hi, Twitch. Bye, Twitch. It